How much money is Beehiiv making right now?
Right now, so this is our 19th or 20th month. We'll make about $500,000 this month.
So you're like a $50 to $100 million business right now.
Depending on the market, the valuations, how you're valuing. Yeah, maybe.
Huge advocate of Beehiiv for a while, a big user ourselves. We have a newsletter about 70,000 people, and there's nothing else even close to Beehiiv right now in the market. And you guys have come in at such a unique angle that I just need to get inside your mind, like, how did you make such a user-centric product?
I think we could cut it right now, put that on a 30-second ad, and you can be the face of our brand. Yeah, I mean, the story has been told many times. I guess my background is coming from Morning Brew, and so I joined as a second employee, built that company alongside the early employees, the co-founders, up until acquisition. And so just having an inside track of what it takes to build a successful newsletter, it's very different from, I think newsletters are interesting, I'm going to build software around that. I know exactly what it took, like in the weeds, to build this newsletter from 50,000 subscribers when I joined to 3.5 million when I left. So what data did we collect? How did we slice it? What dashboards did we use? What was like the referral program? What were the different growth mechanisms? And so I think having like a very fast user-centric approach to this is how we have had the success that we've had early on.
So you essentially built all the internal like business solutions inside of Morning Brew. No one, if you don't know, Morning Brew is a newsletter.
Yeah,
a few million subscribers, sold for like $70-something million a few years ago, and one of the most well-known stories to date. But this man built all their internal systems and actually basically kind of built Beehiiv internally for them, and then saw that as an opportunity to bring it to market as a separate entity once you left Morning Brew.
I love startups and tech, and I idolize like the early stories of like Facebook and Apple and like just like Silicon Valley startups. And those are the stories I would read growing up, the books I'd read. And it was my dream to start a company. And
so that you always have been in entrepreneurship. Why did you work at Morning Brew for 3.5 years? And then why'd you go to Google?
Austin Reef, who's the co-founder, now CEO of Morning Brew, is from Baltimore as well. And he reached out to me. I was like on an hour-long car ride home from DC, and he was like, just like venting about the business and the opportunity. This is when Morning Brew probably had 40,000 subscribers, like very early on. He was debating going full-time or like raising money and going full-time or doing a big investment banking job in New York. And one thing he said was like, did you know Barstool's making like 40% of their revenue through merch or whatever the number was? But he was interested in merch. I was like, dude, I got you. Shopify store. Like,
oh, okay.
Let me help you build, like, because they had some brand affinity with like the mug and the logo, and people wanted t-shirts and hats or coffee mugs. So the first idea was like, I'll help you build a Shopify store. And then we started talking, and he was like, the Skim is growing so quickly. They were kind of like the trailblazers in the newsletter space, and they have millions of subscribers, and they have this like Skim Ambassadors program, this referral program that works really well. All these girls in New York that read it like love their ambassador program and are always sharing it. He's like, we should imitate that. And so he came to me and was like, can you build this for like $3,000 on the side, as I was freelancing in my parents' basement building different projects? And the answer was like, no. I had absolutely no idea how to do it. But I kid you not, I have a screenshot on my phone. I think I had like $2.50 in my bank account. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I can figure that out, no problem. And for 3 weeks, I was building this referral program, making it up as I went, had no idea, almost quit like 5 separate times. At like 2 a.m., I'd be up and I'd be like, genuinely, I lied about being able to do this, and I have no idea how I get past where I am now. And almost texted him, ended up not finishing it. Well, ended up not texting him and finishing it. And he looks at me, paid me the $3,000. It was like, we have so many other projects to build. Do you want to keep working with us throughout the summer while you apply for full-time jobs? So I just started contracting for them like 40, 60 hours a week, building the website, making the referral program better, building different components on like for the newsletter. And I have like $120,000 of student debt just from paying for school myself. And so the safe move was, I'm just going to go to DC, live with my friend, and work at Deloitte as a consultant. And then out of nowhere, like I signed the offer, was going to start in 2 weeks. And Austin hits me up and goes, what do you think about joining Morning Brew full-time coming up to New York? And like at the time, and in retrospect, seems like a no-brainer because Morning Brew went on to be very successful. Yeah. At the time, they had 50,000 subscribers. It was the 2 co-founders and a writer in an NYU like dorm room type office thing. And I have so much debt, and it was like such a risk at the time. And one of my friends who I went to with like just career advice was like, you're going to be one of 50,000 people in that job at Deloitte, or the only person in the world building Morning Brew and doing that thing. And I just completely bet on myself, dropped girlfriend, life in DC, friend, moved up to New York in 2 months. And that was kind of how I got into the Morning Brew.
Did you get equity for taking that risk initially? Was that promised?
Yeah. So like it's pretty common in most startups to have some bit of equity. I had a few percent.
A few percent.
Not
bad at all after the outcome that happened.
Yeah.
But you did touch on something that I think it's a really good lesson. You said yes to doing something that you had no idea how to do. And the like hustler in you said, yes, I can do this. But internally you're freaking out because you have no idea how to make this referral system. So do you advise people to do that? Because you weren't that technical, but then you went on to like literally build all of the technical internal tools for Morning Brew. So almost you saying yes to doing something forced you to learn, and then you were able to actually figure it out somehow, just the internet, and then made your whole career, and now you have a huge business that is a software company. So has that just been like a theme for like how...
I mean, to my own demise of like stress and like I've probably cut off like 10 to 15 years of my life, like always making that decision. But I would actually attribute most of my success in my career to putting myself in situations where I was always way over my head, because I'm not someone who's ever going to give up. And when you're not going to give up and you're in way over your head, the only way is up and hustling and figuring out, whether it means late nights, whether it means watching tutorials online, scheduling calls with people who know what they're doing and learning from them. Like there's multiple paths to figure out how to solve whatever problem it is.
Did you do that a lot? Schedule calls with people and ask them?
I mean, even at Morning, I knew nothing about email or newsletters. Meanwhile, I was given the job of growing this email newsletter and building the internal tech for it. And so I would just schedule demos with like MailChimp or Campaign Monitor or like all these different email platforms. Well, because they were vendors to us.
Oh, okay.
So like we were trying to vet like who should we send, and I had no idea even like what I should be looking at.
Yeah.
So I like scheduled calls with other people in the newsletter space who hit different pain points and be like, what should I be looking out for when I go to these calls? And then when we jumped on the calls with like Campaign Monitor, hypothetically, they would be like talking about deliverability, and they'd brush over, and I'd be like, wait, what is that? Like, what should I know about this, and why are you better than the competitors? And so I was like scheduling demos with every like email vendor or like software vendor in the space, in like the newsletter space and the CMS space, just to understand what I didn't know, which was everything.
Really smart. I don't think that was possible like 10, 15 years ago. But now that we have the internet, like
it really is.
You crazy. Can figure anything out.
Yeah, literally
it's all
anything.
There. That's so cool. Did you leave on good terms? Like decent. Because you didn't leave right when they sold. You left.
I left like a few weeks before, and I had no idea that they were getting acquired. So I'd say like yes and no. For 3.5 years at Morning Brew, I kind of had no restrictions of what to do. They trusted me, and they said, if you think this is going to work, try it for a month or two. And fortunately, like there's definitely some luck involved. A lot of the things I built and tried ended up working. So they kept giving me more responsibility to try new things. And so we did that. We scaled over 3 million subscribers. And then I started to see the writing on the wall, like, okay, they're making, I don't know, $15, $20 million a year now. I am 26, still self-taught, and they're going to start legitimizing the business, bringing in people who have been like a product manager at Vice or Vox for 10 years.
Right.
And one, I'm definitely like a bit stubborn, and I was like, I know this space better than anyone that they could bring in, and I know this business inside and out. And so there's a part of me that's like, I don't really want to report to anyone else. And then there was also the part of me of, yes, I'm willing to learn from other people, but I don't know if a PM at Vice is like who I want to learn from.
Yeah, it's like you're getting chained or something.
It's just like a media company PM isn't what I found like super aspirational. I wanted to learn from like big tech and like, what are the products and companies that are making billions of dollars? Like, how do they do product? And so tying that all together, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that I was about to have a boss that wasn't Austin and get hired over.
Oh, that's
tough. And the time came where, I don't know, 3.5 years is a long time to be anywhere. And it went from there was so much to do, I could do anything and build anything, to everything was built. It was like optimizing the website to convert a little bit better. So I'd say like the fun part was kind of running out for me personally in like the product and engineering space. So that was like the itch of what else can I do and build. And like this was a great chapter. I owe everything to Alex and Austin for giving me the opportunity. And I was like, I think I'm down to try something else. As like a next step in my career and just like kind of building out like the resume, like I knew I was always going to build a startup and a company at one point, but it was, where do I go to refine the skills that I know that I'm not great at? And being able to learn what product management is. Everyone says Google's like the gold standard of product management. There's like real process. There's like how you think about user journeys. And I go, I don't know what any of that means, like in an actual process standpoint. So let's go figure that out. And that's kind of how I ended up at Google.
Would you say you got that out of the experience?
Like 100%.
Okay.
In retrospect, like I was there for 10 months. It was like it was a pit stop, and it was during COVID. And
I've always thought about doing that. Like, I feel like that is a gap in my knowledge. So what were like the 3 like biggest takeaways? Yeah, obviously you left.
I mean,
for a reason too, but
everything there was about process. So the way that they did it at Google that I learned is if you want to build a product or a feature, like a product requirement document, like a PRD is like a full like 5, 10, 15 page paper of here's how it should work. Here's what it looks like. What are the mock-ups? What happens when you click on this button? Where does that take users? Who's like the target user? How do you measure success? Like typical things that you'd want to know.
It's like Figma design.
Like you throw in like Figma design, but also just like but also just like explaining like here's like how users get to this feature. This is why it's useful. This is why we're allocating like 8 engineers time for 2 months to build this.
To design outcome.
It's almost like making it an argument for why you're building. And
Gotcha.
Because like for example, like in retrospect at Morning Brew, when I said I'm going to spend 3 months building a CMS, I had no idea how I was going to do that. I didn't think about any of the obstacles, and I had no idea what it was going to look like or how it was going to work at the end, which is like as dumb as possible. Like it would have been much easier just to plan for 2 weeks of this is what the final state is. Here's the components we're going to use. This is like the tech we're going to use. And the end goal is this. And I think it'll be worth it because X, Y, Z. So that's how like normal companies think about things before they invest like tons of people and money and time into building it. And I never knew that. I was just like kind of building whatever I felt like building at Morning Brew. So I'd say understanding that from Google, like what are the different components of that document and like what's the case to be made was totally new to me. And then once you have like this is how it should work, how it should look, now an engineer owns it and they kind of build like a technical scoping document of here's what we're adding in the database, here are like the models we're adding, here's like the actual code that is going to make that thing come to life. And then the engineer like kind of owns that process. It's kind of like the same process, but for engineering instead of product.
So do you build off this master sheet as you go, or you're more so just planning it all together so then 4 different levels of management can improve it, 30 different people on the teams can see it so they're on the same page?
For the product side, it's like part of it's like pitching to management of like this. It's like more of a layman's terms of this is what's going to happen. This is how we're building it. On the engineering side, like you don't want to have an engineer or team of engineers just coding and tinkering for weeks without like an end goal. So the goal is for them to say, here's how we're going to build it. This is exactly how we're going to build it. And then you pitch it to like the engineers and the engineers will poke holes in and be like, actually, I think it'd be more performant if you do it like this. Or you're completely forgetting this other thing that we built previously that will help you do X, Y, Z. But you're basically just getting sign off and more smart people's opinion before someone goes heads down for 6 weeks building something, which makes perfect sense. And then once the product team and managers and end users have seen the PRD and they're like, okay, that looks good. Then the engineers have seen the technical doc and the engineer's like, I agree, that's a great way to build it. Then the engineer can go and build it. And then it works as it's described and it fits into the PRD. Anyway, that's all totally new to me and something I had no idea that existed prior to Google. Google, we couldn't like build a button without those 2 steps and like 10, 15 pages of each.
It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time and it's a lot of planning. And like Google, you know, the people both from PMs to engineers are really expensive and they don't want to waste people's time and they don't want to have someone build something that doesn't make sense or work as it should. So I'd say that is my biggest takeaway from my 10 months at Google, outside the fact that nothing really gets done at large companies.
Probably the most valuable takeaway for what you transitioned into for Beehiiv. Like, you're probably
that process that I just described is exactly how we've built everything at Beehiiv to an extent. Less bureaucracy than what you would get at Google, obviously, and much quicker turnaround and everything. But the system's more or less the exact same. Any feature or product release that's over a certain threshold, we do the PRD, we do the technical scoping doc, we get sign off, and then they build it, and then they ship it. But I would have had no idea how to do that if it wasn't for my 10-month stint at Google.
Just knowing how the best people in the world do something is super valuable because then you're not like questioning, is there a better method? Am I being like inefficient in a way? And so seeing firsthand and knowing for sure this is how the biggest company in the world operates and then bringing that to your own company, I can just imagine that's way more valuable than the salary you were getting. But
yeah, I mean, that's also like my chip on the shoulder for everything is that I was, as a self-taught software developer, every time I coded a single line of code anywhere, I was like, did I do that right?
Yeah, were you kind of insecure?
Always. Still, to
that
this
makes
day,
sense.
I've always been like, and the thing is, and you learn later that a lot of people who went through the computer science program, they don't teach you how to build websites, and a lot of or most computer science programs don't. So a lot of the engineers who did like 4 years of CS actually didn't learn the things I was building anyway. But not being told by like a teacher or a superior, like this is how it's done. I was writing code for Morning Brew for 4 years when they had millions of readers. And like I was the boss of like the engineering team. And I had every time I typed a line of code, I go, I don't know if this is right or performant or if there's a better way. Yeah. But that's like, there's like different spectrums. I'd say I'm far right on like the fuck it, let's see what happens. Or as long as it works, it's good enough for me. And then as I've hired engineers, they're much on like, here's the most efficient, optimized process. And it might take like 3 weeks longer, but it will be the most performant. And I love that balance because we end up meeting somewhere in between of like, we don't need the most perfect, elegant solution that's going to last to the year like 3000. We just need something that works for the next 4 to 5 years. So like, let's get it to market quicker. So it's a good balance to have.
That's funny because you have like the most scrappy, just figured out at Morning Brew. Then you go to Google, which is the complete far right, the most extreme. And now you have Beehiiv, which is probably perfectly in the middle.
And it's so interesting for the engineers too, because like that is like how they show off like their intellect is like, I've thought about the most performant way to build X. And I think it's more performant than the way that you're proposing. And they kind of like nerd off on like, what's the better solution? And I'm like, there's real market opportunity being wasted by not already having something live. And I'm getting it from 15 of our users that this needs to be live yesterday. So like, let's just get to market. And it's finding the balance between good solution that works well and won't break, but it doesn't need to be the most performant thing, at least like not today.
Yeah, I think going the unconventional route of learning, you definitely got more range. Like you have much more diverse knowledge and you can kind of pick and choose what you needed that you could action immediately at Morning Brew instead of like a textbook, here's what you can do. So it kind of opens up more creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of creativity, let's go to Beehiiv.
Yeah,
this is
what I'm for a few
This
times.
is what I really like. If you're
Yeah.
going to send the podcast, let's send it at this point.
Yeah,
this is where it's going to get really detailed. So Beehiiv. The most valuable way I've thought about it is typically for a newsletter business. If you don't know what a newsletter is, just like you send an email to people every week about a topic. But most people would just write in a Google Doc and then upload it to like a MailChimp and then send it out to 1,000 people. And then they would just get an email list from like a quick, maybe like a MailChimp landing page at best, if they even had that back then. But Beehiiv has like the most streamlined, user-friendly system to grow, scale, and write a newsletter. And now actually get sponsors, which was like the most annoying process for us. So I totally understand all the value from Beehiiv here. But what I want to understand is when you launched 19 months ago, what did you go to market with? What features existed? And why did you choose those features?
Yeah, so, and even to take a step back from what you were describing, like I saw that entire cycle while at Morning Brew. Like we had a custom built like Squarespace a Squarespace website that collected emails. And that like somehow connected to MailChimp to send the emails.
Yeah, it wasn't even connected from MailChimp.
And then like we had a WordPress website that we would type stories into. And then our writers would copy and paste it into like an HTML template and send it on MailChimp.
Clunky.
So like what a lot of people, even to this day, still do is they have like some web content, which is like a Webflow or WordPress where their blog lives. Totally separate. They have like their email list. Sometimes they collect emails like IRL and upload them via CSV. Otherwise, they like literally take them from like their WordPress site, export them and import them before sending. It's like very convoluted.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of value in having a streamlined process where the website, the blog, and the newsletter all live like symbiotically. And that's kind of what we've built at Morning Brew. And so to answer your question of what we went to market with, you pitched it pretty well in like almost like internal Morning Brew tools, like Morning Brew in a box. Substack launched, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and their core innovation, I think, was combining the website with the newsletter with premium subscriptions. So that already existed in the market. Where I thought that they were weak in just talking to users who were complaining about using the existing solutions, like the referral program was kind of like a holy grail of Morning Brew. When I was there, it led to over 1 million subscribers, which is crazy. We had a list dedicated to people who had more than 3 referrals, and that list had over 100,000 people on it. That's like bigger than like 95% of email lists in general, and those were just for people with more than 3 referrals. So the referral program was a massive growth driver for us, and I wrote like a blog post on it that's like very detailed, and I still get hit up about it. So that was like a golden nugget of what people wanted. At the end of the day, I think most content creators care about like 2 things. It's growing and monetizing, and if you can create tools that allow them to grow quicker, and monetize more, most content creators, businesses, publishers are very happy. So the positioning was the existing solutions in the market, we can do everything that they can do. You can post content to the website. You can also simultaneously send out a newsletter. We'll handle all of that for you. There's no like exporting, importing. We'll give you a referral program to help you streamline and scale your audience quicker, which I had the legitimacy and credibility from Morning Brew saying I've already built Morning Brews, which is like an industry leading referral program. So now for $99 a month, you get the same thing that made Morning Brew, or one of the many things that made Morning Brew successful, out of the box, like minimal setup. So that was like a go-to-market strategy that was very intentional. And then the other one was, yes, on Substack or Member for like any of the other platforms, you can do a premium subscription. You don't have to worry about Stripe and billing and payments. We'll do that, but we won't take a cut of revenue. So if you're making $100,000 a month and they're taking 10%, you can just move over to our platform. You keep the full 100,000 minus the Stripe fees. And so hitting on the two main components of growing faster and monetizing more was like our initial go-to-market.
So the core features, you got the landing page builder and you collect emails, correct?
Yep.
And then you could do a referral program natively within the platform. And then you could do a paid subscription for your newsletter. Did I miss one?
Yeah, I mean, and like send newsletter. So you create, there's an editor, you post a web, like a blog, you post as an email, you can do both at the same time. And then you can do premium subscriptions and you can do the referral program.
So this is basically like the solopreneur's like dream setup, or the creator that you referenced, because what you referenced was kind of how the big companies were doing it. They had dozens of developers on their team. They have a website. They have CMS. What is it? Email?
Yeah, sure.
They had all these
ESP.
different like websites to collect information. They could communicate because they had the budget and the people to do it. But if you're just an everyday person with a skill and a specific interest, it was a lot of money, a lot of different tools, a lot of time, and you just want to write about the specific topic. So you just made it as easy as possible for people to make a place for people to subscribe, write the email, send it out, and then grow all in one place. And that was your go-to-market strategy.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, most really, really talented engineers aren't dying to work at like a small publisher.
Right.
So even like the tech teams that do exist at a lot of these publishers and small like media startups aren't like the top tier talent. I mean, typically. And like what we built at Morning Brew took me and a team of 3 additional engineers 3.5 years to build. So we built this like perfect ecosystem for email newsletters to grow quickly, to understand who our audience is, to be able to sell advertisements and monetize. And it took us trialing and erroring and failing so many times, and 3.5 years of a team of dedicated engineers just for that. And so the value prop is, if you could take everything that we learned in those 3.5 years and you don't need to hire 4 engineers and you don't need to piece together 8 different pieces of software or build your own solution, wouldn't it be a lot nicer to pay $99 a month and have people that know how to do it provide that for you out of the box? And that was like our initial go-to-market strategy.
So how did you launch?
So we were building it while I was at Google. So like nights and weekends. On the side.
Oh, nice.
Which is like very stressful. It's like the classic like startup journey. But like, I mean, some people are like, fuck it, I have enough money to live off of. I'm just going to go in a hole, work for a few months, try to raise money. I've had one job prior to this at Morning Brew, like younger in my career, still have student debt. So as de-risked as possible, like I had a job and I was doing nights and weekends, which is incredibly draining, but it was also, I think I benefited a bit from it being COVID. So like there wasn't like fun things to do per se. Like I was kind of like stuck inside anyway.
Some of the most productive days of my life.
I built the Big Desk Energy website during that, like where other people were like, oh, this is sick. Let's like order in wine and watch Netflix for like Tiger 8 hours. Like I never watched Tiger King, but like that was like the big thing, right?
That's the test.
But I was like, now that I've been given like, because I cave to peer pressure, like I have like a social life. I want to go out, hang out with friends. But now that you've removed that as an option, how do I actually view this as like a massive opportunity where I don't have to be like some loser, be like, nah, I don't want to hang out with you guys.
About it, yeah.
Like I have no one.
That makes a lot of sense.
I have no one to say no to, and like I don't have to make up excuses. There was nothing to do, so I was like, how can I just be as much of a psychopath right now and go heads down and provide as much value and learn and build things? So this is 2020. We started like fall of 2020 into like the summer of 2021. Nights, weekends, just like hustling, building this company, and the whole time, like I think any entrepreneur or like early startup is just super anxious because like very rare for you to be the first one to market. So you're always going against competitors that already exist. You already have a team of 10, 20, 30 people who already have a ton of money, and you're going to market because you think you can either do it better than them or you're taking a different approach to solve a problem that they're not doing a good job of solving. But it's also like the most anxiety inducing time, because if my thesis hypothetically was we're going to go to market with a referral program, that entire 12 months of like stealth of us building, all it took was like one of our competitors to be like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. We're going to launch like an amazing referral program, mimicked after Morning Brew. And I'm sitting there with no money and just like hustling on like 2:00 in the morning on like a Saturday. And I go, fuck, like I just bet all my eggs on this basket and I've been hustling. And like, it's not the only differentiator, but it was one of the ones that
your angle.
It was one of the ones that we were going to go to market with, and like that I knew would be splashy. And every day I'd wake up with like that anxiety of like, did any of like our main like 5-6 competitors launch something similar to what we're building now? Again, Substack was already raised. I think they were worth like 600 mil at this point, and like the clear market leader of the new age newsletter platform, and like we're making waves there. Facebook just launched Bulletin like a few months before we started raising money. It was like their attempt to do like a newsletter platform as a part of Facebook. But because they have infinite dollars, they were just going to like Malcolm Gladwell and like all of these A-list writers and paying them to create newsletters on Bulletin, which never made any sense, but they have enough money to try anything. Twitter bought Review a year earlier, which was like Twitter's newsletter platform. And a lot of newsletter people are pretty active on Twitter. It's like a pretty one-to-one correlation, good at writing newsletters. And they had like the whole sign up in your bio, which like everyone viewed as like the greatest thing ever. And so we got to market. We built it up until summer of 2021. We raised a seed round in July of 2020.
So from that time to when you raised, how long was that?
I think we did about like 10 months.
10 months yourself,
night weekends, me and my 2 co-founders.
How much did you raise in the seed?
We did 2.6 million.
Oh my God, in the seed?
Yeah.
So, but did you launch the product before that, before you raised the seed round?
No. So we were like in like the MVP, like had a prototype. And I think I tweeted maybe right before I started going out to raise money, I tweeted like, that was when I like put my cards on the table. I was like, I've been building a newsletter platform that will do X, Y, Z, not take a cut of revenue, has a referral program, and totally customizable website newsletter. If that's something you'd be interested in, sign up for our waitlist here. So I just did like a Google form waitlist. Got, I think, like 450, 500 people to sign up.
Just a tweet?
Just a tweet. And so
how many followers did you have?
I still don't have that many followers. Maybe like 3,000 at the time.
You had 3,000 followers and 500 of them signed up to try it?
Yeah. Well,
you kind of had people.
I've kind of been like cultivating like I had a core
very
group
dense
of like 10 to 15 people that I was like, have they launched this yet? Or do you think that this is a good way to build this? Like I had like an internal squad of people that I was just bouncing ideas off of, or like I'd show them a screenshot. Do you prefer A or B? And they'd be like, okay, let's go with B.
Nice.
So it's kind of cultivating like early adopters. And they were pretty big in the newsletter space. So I mean, as far as, I don't know how big or small the newsletter market is, but like I had that kind of down from my Morning Brew days, and like that is what I was working with.
It's kind of hard for me to tell because I've been like obsessed with the newsletter, like YouTube, like Sam Parr, Morning Brew. I've been like in it for like a year, and same with Twitter. So like I'm in this algorithm, and so I don't know.
All you see is newsletters.
Is it every person?
That's all you see? That's all I see.
Is it like every person has a newsletter now? Is it like super popular, or am I just like bombarded because that's what my algorithm's trained for?
Probably both.
Yeah.
But I would say that I think people are catching on to like of the different mediums, like this right here, this podcast, you have like real equipment, you have like an editor, you have to chop it up. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. The unit economics of a newsletter are so amazing. And so
what does that mean? Unit economics?
Like whether you're sending to 10 people or 10 million people,
scalable,
the amount of work that goes into the newsletter is more or less the same. And like the infrastructure costs are also like very favorable in terms of like the actual cost to send the emails.
Gotcha.
So the way that I looked at it is there was a point at Morning Brew when it was the 2 founders. There was the writer, there was me, and someone on growth. And so we had sales down, which was what one of the founders was working on. We had writing, we had growth, and we had tech. So like 4.5, 5 people. And we were making $5-6 million a year at that point. And like they decided to go the venture back of like how much bigger can we make this, and like made the right decision because they got acquired for a lot of money.
Yeah.
But like we could have made that a lifestyle business, and us 5 could have been printing between $5 and $10 million a year. And like that output that we were putting, like the effort we were putting into that remained constant, whether we were sending to 1 million people or we could have scaled that to 10, 15 million readers. So it's like the effort that goes into a newsletter is pretty flat. And with platforms like Beehiiv that make it so affordable to get started, like there's no like upfront risk. Like you can get started for free.
Can you explain a lifestyle business? Because I like that term.
What? That, I mean, that like
what that is.
like a lifestyle business?
Yeah, a lifestyle business versus like a startup, venture-backed startup.
Like venture-backed startup is like you're always chasing more and more money, higher growth, and like there's no end to it. You're either, if you've already saturated your market, you're looking for new markets, you're looking to hire new teams, you're looking to make the product a bit better, you're trying to get better margins, which I guess like every business kind of is. But a lifestyle business is like, what if you could just print $3 to $5 million and like everyone, I mean, it doesn't have to be a dollar amount, but you're making enough money and you can take care of the people who are working for you and everyone gets paid really well. And you're like, okay, I'm good.
Just do like, this well. For
maybe everyone's
people.
making like 250, 300K and like, it's great. Like you don't have aspirations to flip it and sell it for 10, 15, 20 million.
But you go on vacation, you can have a nice
But you also have,
you're
not always chasing growth. And as someone who has always chased growth and like the big thing and try to make things better, there's a big part of me that admires people who like chill. Yeah. Who can just be like, yo, this is good. And I'm going to go on like you just got back from a 3-week vacation, right? Like I would love to go away for a few days and chill and not think about work. And I'm so far from that. But there's plenty of people that have a situation in business where it's not constantly chasing the next thing and they're doing really well. They're solving a problem. They have a successful business. And they're probably living a much healthier lifestyle without the expectations that they need to keep doing more.
A newsletter is a really good lifestyle business for like solo creators.
For sure.
$10,000, $20,000 a month, super achievable. And they can just write one newsletter a week.
You can also do it as a complete side project, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of people are PMs at a company or have like a great paying job, but they have a hobby or a passion towards either something related to their work or something totally different that they're just interested in. And because they are interested in it, they want to learn about it, they want to write about it, they develop influence in this space, and then they get advertisers or they do premium subscriptions, affiliates. Like there's so many different ways to monetize a newsletter. It really is just like top of funnel. And even if you don't go for like, hey, I want to make thousands of dollars from this newsletter, maybe 15,000 people follow you because you're an expert at the Phoenix Suns and you know everything about their roster, their team, their GM and whatever. And you've grown influence in a space that people look up to you in some capacity. And like there's a lot of advantages to that. Maybe you get a job at the Phoenix Suns. Right?
100%. And the network, like random connections of people, like there's so many doors that could open. But I never realized how much money you can make from newsletters.
No matter who you are or what you do, you should start a newsletter. It is the best way for business owners to talk to their customers, build an email list, and most importantly, increase sales. Morning Brew, the newsletter, sold for $75 million. And you can literally get started completely for free on Beehiiv and start monetizing immediately. So to help you guys get started, we created a list of 80 different newsletter ideas, and we'll send that to you completely for free. Just click the first link in the description below.
But I never realized how much money you can make from newsletters until like 7 months ago. Like people told me to start one 2 years ago. And I was like, I'd laugh at them. I'm like, why? Like it's email. I'm on YouTube. Like that's way more valuable or something. People are paying, sponsors pay so much for newsletters. 10,000 people on newsletter, you can make 10, 20, 30K a month if it's like the right quality of people.
And if you're already creating content, like in the YouTube space, like you're already thinking about things, you're talking to interesting people, you already have content down, why not shift some of the content that you're creating in video and like do a summary of that and put it in newsletter form? There's like AI tools that will help you with that. You can hire a ghostwriter to be like, here's a 2-hour interview I did with the founder of X. I think this space is so interesting. Let's dedicate the month of March to a weekly newsletter about that topic. And you can get 4 weeks worth of newsletters just from this 1-2-hour interview. And like, not everyone's going to watch the YouTube videos. Not everyone's going to read the newsletter, but it's like a very symbiotic relationship of at the bottom of every newsletter, hey, follow my YouTube channel. At the end of every YouTube video, hey, subscribe to my newsletter. And you just have more touch points of engaging with the audience.
Every creator needs it, whether it's your TikTok or Instagram YouTuber, you're a business, anybody, because once you have their email, you now own that list of people too. If your YouTube gets taken down for breaking a rule, you're out of luck. But if you have that email list, maybe you can build up a new channel and send them your new channel. So like you have a point of contact with these people.
I mean, how devastating would it be? I mean, the YouTube example is one. I know like the Montana ban for TikTok didn't last very long, but hypothetically, let's say there's like geopolitical issues and TikTok gets shut down. 95% of your audience is concentrated on TikTok. Like, what now?
They'll never be able to find
no way to find those people again. And you didn't own that relationship or have any of the data points on your readers. TikTok did. And the same could be said for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And so the difference in like that is like the advantages of email. Like you really own your audience. It's direct one-to-one. Facebook can shift their algorithms or Instagram any way that they want, where maybe you were getting 100,000 views on your videos, but someone at Instagram doesn't like your content or whatever, like the algorithm shifts to focus more on community-based or maybe they, with the upcoming election, they want more political based content. Now your videos are getting significantly less views. You have less influence. You have no way to get in front of your audience because you don't have a direct relationship with them. Your only relationship was Instagram or TikTok boosting your videos to their feed. But once that goes away, you're kind of like shit out of luck, right?
100%.
And so it really is like an ultimate hedge of understanding, like, here's a direct line I have to my audience. I can ask them, what's your favorite sports team, or what content do you want more of, or where do you live, or whatever. And like those data points, you're collecting first party data. Now you understand your audience. I think some of the platforms are getting better at surfacing some of that data for the creators, but it's also their data.
100%.
And it's not exportable. Like there's not data portability from TikTok to YouTube. And the good and bad thing about the business that I operate in is like complete data portability, which is our advantage to take customers from other platforms, because you can export your email list and your data and move it over to Beehiiv. It also adds a tremendous amount of stress and pressure, because if we ever fuck up, we're one export away from going to one of our competitors as well. So it's a two-way street, but that is also kind of like the beauty of the newsletter space. Like that's your email list and you can take it wherever you want.
That's really important. And I think people might skip over that, but it's very easy for your YouTube account to get banned, copyright claim, or you say something they don't like, even if it's political. They will literally destroy your YouTube account, delete it, and not let you back on YouTube, and you're screwed if you don't have the email. So every person, every creator, every business should have a newsletter. You should do it on Beehiiv.
There we go.
Beehiiv, right?
Done. Yeah, you nailed it.
All right.
A lot of practice.
That. Yeah, well, I've used it.
Yeah.
And I see it in the link in the URLs all the time, which is genius. And this is what I want to talk about. Your product-led growth, your viral loops, best in the business, 100%, because now it's just like a critical mass of people, and it's just continuing to grow. And you recently posted that chart of your growth. And so take me to the beginning. Like once you raised that $2.6 million, you wanted to like bring the product to market, launch it. What strategy did you like do? Product hunts? Did you have an email list already built up? How did you actually get out there after the wait list was over? Have you tried, and what were your first like marketing angles? And then how has it kind of just grown to the 500K it is now?
Yeah. Very loaded question.
Yeah.
There's so many different
Let's go through it all.
But let's hit it. So to start, we had our wait list of 500 people. So the easiest, lowest hanging fruit was hitting up all of them like, hey, we launched, check it out. And me just persistently emailing these people and annoying them to move over. I'd say maybe 100 of the 500 moved over at some point in like the next 3 to 6 months. So there was the initial like, hey, I'm interested in what you're building. There was, of the 2.6 million we raised, Social Leverage, who's actually based in Scottsdale and San Diego. They were like our main lead investor in the seed, but we also had about 15 to 20 strategic investors. And strategic investors, meaning they had an email list, they had a large following on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Okay.
And that was like Fuck Jerry, like that team at Instagram, they invested. The example I always use is like Liquidity, the meme account on Instagram and Twitter. He had a newsletter of 100,000 people called Exec Sum that was sending on a different platform. And so as investors, they're financially incentivized to make sure that we succeed. And so they were really our early adopters. It sounds so simple, and I don't know why more startups don't go at the market like this. Like, why not get investors who are going to be your early customers? Because the early customers are by far the hardest to get. We launched and our product is the worst it'll ever be. Like it's a very established space. It's very competitive, and we're a month old, right? So like we have the least features we'll ever have. All of our competitors have 10 times more functionality. They're so much more polished. The product's good, but like not amazing by any means. It's going to get better, and it has. So you really need early adopters that believe in you. And like, what better than the people who just wrote you like a 100K check to say like, hey, in order for this to get off the ground, we need some early traction. So Liquidity moved his newsletter of 100,000 people from whatever platform he was using before to us. We offered more customization. We made sure it looked really good. We added the referral program. We had like polls into it. And now his audience of 100,000 people that have been receiving his newsletter for a year plus overnight see a better looking newsletter on a better website with a referral program and like polls and like all these features. And it's like very noticeable when you start. He sends it 5 days a week. When you start your morning with it every day, and it's very different. So that's like the first like, holy shit, something changed here. I wonder what it is. And if you scroll down, you see at the bottom in the footer, which is like the classic growth hacking mechanism of like powered by Beehiiv in the footer of the newsletter and on the website. And so you take that 100,000 audience, maybe a few % of them notice that it's now being sent with Beehiiv, or people reach out to him like, yo, newsletter looks a lot better. What changed? He's like, oh, I moved over to this new company. I invested in Beehiiv. They check it out. So that's like how the viral loop starts. And you multiply that by the 10, 15 other strategic investors who had a large list as well, all sending on us, plus the 100 people on the wait list. And that's like the initial like viral loops that were kind of set into place when we launched.
Intentionality. I think that's going to be the catchphrase of this podcast, because every successful person I talk to has that strategy decided before they launch their product or before they've ever brought on investors. You probably had that core idea. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Literally, when you send, if someone has a newsletter on Beehiiv and you send the newsletter to 100,000 people, if you scroll down to the bottom of the newsletter, there's just a link. It's a logo. It's hyperlinked and it says powered by Beehiiv. And so, like you said, 1 or 2% of people might get curious and be like, what is Beehiiv? Or maybe they're thinking of writing a newsletter themselves. So they're looking for, how does this person make his newsletter? And so there's a very clear visual and a link that they can get curious and click on and be like, oh, this is a newsletter delivery software. And so then they start using Beehiiv because the favorite newsletter that they read uses Beehiiv.
It's also like one of the more controversial points with our customers, because a lot of people we offer white labeling now, but before we'd have like very large customers being like, this is my brand, I don't want powered by Beehiiv in the footer, which is like totally reasonable. But I saw all of the data and I knew how valuable it was to have it in there. And the second you remove it from one customer, even if they're paying like $100, $200 extra, like it only takes 2 users to see that click through and convert, where we've already made that $200 and then some. So like I knew the data of how valuable that was. And I made the somewhat
controversial,
like stubborn or like arrogant assumption. I was like, I know our software is better.
I know, yeah.
And we're so much cheaper. So if you're that
deal breaker,
if you're that opinionated about like the few people who scroll all the way to the bottom and see that, and like plus we're trying to build a cool brand, so it's not like a shitty logo with like whatever. Like it's very small and it's at the very bottom, and I think it's a cool brand. So I was like fairly arrogant and said, if that's a deal breaker for you, I'll let you walk. But that means you're going to pay for worse software that costs 5 times as much somewhere else. And I made the calculated bet that like, yes, maybe 1 in 20 people would not sign with us or would churn because of that. But I knew how much growth it was generating for us. And I knew that the value prop was strong enough that they'd stick around, and most people did. But that was like a big point of contention. But we needed that to get off the ground, right? Like we hit a point of like not escape velocity. Like most people probably still don't know who we are, but we're at a point where we have enough foundational growth and people who are using like without white labeled, where we can then offer like where you can pay out of it. But it took us like 16 months and a lot of people bitching about it to like finally be like, I think I've seen enough, or like we have enough of a brand presence where you can pay your way and white label. But it would like, that's another like lesson that I learned is we grew a lot from being active on Twitter and social media. And like as a startup, you get so many touch points of customers that like things and don't like things. And you have to be very careful of what advice you take. The amount of like internal employees who would see like 10 people tweeting, like bitching at us, like, hey, like Beehiiv sucks, like, or like they're great, but they won't remove their branding from the newsletter. It's a total deal breaker for me, like total piece of shit software. Like they don't care about their users. And like one of our employees would like send me 10 of these tweets. And like you have to like, one, take that feedback, but also be like, there's a method to the madness. Like, yeah, I know the data and I know that people are loud and opinionated. It's very easy to have like a knee-jerk reaction and be like, oh, let's just remove it then because these 10 people are really loud. But you don't see the 5,000 other people using the software and not complaining about it, or the 10 or 15,000 accounts that have signed up from the people clicking through. And like you have to be very level-headed and not like a knee-jerk reaction to everything. And so like there is a part of like I'm building this business because I know what's better and like what product works better. There's also like I see the data that customers who are complaining don't see, and maybe it pisses off one person, but the ROI is so much greater, and like you just have to be very level-headed about it.
You have to have confidence in your product being so good though, because it's kind of like negotiating. Like we're gonna leave it. It's too crucial for our growth. This is how our business hits $100 million. So if you don't like it, you can leave.
And we've had plenty of people who were like, hey, this is a deal breaker for me. And I was like, okay, well, they named the 3 other competitors that they were considering. And so I go, okay, competitor A is 4 times the cost and they don't have X, Y, Z features. So you're going to have to buy these 3 new softwares, combine them together to get the end functionality that you're going for. And now you're paying 8X the cost. Same thing for competitor B, same thing for competitor C. So I lay it out for them and I go, I can commit to like considering removing white labeling in the future and offering that. I can't promise you, but we're keeping it on now, and those are your options. And I'd say like 9 out of 10 looked at their options and chose to stay with us
because you have a great product.
So But yeah, that was like one of my big takeaways of like early days. Like you just get so many inputs, and being very methodical and data driven about things and not letting emotion take over some of your decision making is like really important.
And the amount of Beehiiv URLs I see in people's bios now is just so common in my circle. And the fact that it makes way more sense because it's really convenient for the solopreneur to just use the quickest domain. And it's a Beehiiv domain / the name of their newsletter. But do they have the optionality to change the domain?
Yeah, for $50 a month. I mean, you could always change the domain.
Yeah.
Like that was like a non-starter. So you could always...
But it makes sense to have it there for the beginner, which is a huge win for your company, or very easy.
And you can pay out of it like $50 a month, which is like super cheap and do whatever. To double click on like other growth strategies or early days, like we had the strategic investors who were our early adopters and early users, which like helped us get off the ground. We had the wait list. We've also established ourselves as a company that ships product very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very intentional. And part of it's because one, like our initial team was me and 3 engineers. So 4 technical people. And as I said, like the product was we weren't in stealth for 5 years building like the industry leading product. The goal was always to get there. But when you first launch, like we are the worst product in the market. We're the least polished. We're lacking all of the features that our competitors have. So like how you get people to trust you is off of like credibility, narrative, and promising that you're going to build things that don't yet exist and hoping that they believe you.
And then doing it.
And then you have to do it, obviously. So the credibility was, hey, we built this at Morning Brew. The early adopters proved like, look, it works and they're having success. Look at Exec Summon Liquidity's newsletter. Like it looks better. He's getting great feedback. The product works. I know we're missing these 10 things, but we're going to get there. And let me prove to you that we can ship product very quickly. So I would study what our competitors were missing, what people were complaining, like this platform doesn't allow you to do this, or I really want to do X, Y, Z, and I can't find a solution that does that. In my mind, it's like, okay, let's start with that. If people are already complaining that other competitors don't offer that, or that it's just missing in the market, let's focus on building that first.
That's a great piece of advice right there.
So it's just being very active on Twitter and like social and seeing
looking at specifically what people are complaining about your competitors.
And so we would see like competitor X doesn't do these 5 things. And I go, okay, that's our roadmap for the next month. Let's build those 5 things. So we like narrow in, we build those 5 things, and then we be very loud about it. So we have like a product announcement email, and I'd send out an email to all of our users. So one, it's like product education. You're a user of Beehiiv. This just launched. You should take advantage of it. Like it didn't exist yesterday, now it exists. So it's 1, educating users, but it's 2, signaling to the market, hey, if you wanted to do this and you were one of those people complaining that this platform doesn't allow that, you can now do that on Beehiiv. And here's like the 4 other things we just launched too. So it's a marketing strategy to show other people that exist that our solution solves a pain point that other competitors don't have. So it's both product education and marketing. And then people will adopt it. And then you just rinse and repeat. So you find, I'd say, 1, the things that make our product good but not great and that people are complaining about, we prioritize those as features and initiatives. Things that people are complaining about on other platforms that you can't do, we prioritize those. And just like interesting, flashy utility things that either help you grow faster or make more money are also prioritized. And so the combination of those, it's like, how do we prioritize building those as quickly as possible? We make a huge deal when we do launch them, and then rinse, wash, repeat every 2 weeks. And the narrative then becomes, holy shit, they're launching so many value add features. Or it also becomes, again, the uncertainty and like the chip on my shoulder of like, we didn't have the 15 features that all of our competitors have, but if we are known to be shipping so quickly, the narrative sets in to people in the market being like, they don't have that yet, but they ship so quickly, they will soon. So if we had won you over as a potential user for 9 out of 10 things, but we were missing that one thing, the hope is that you've seen our track record of shipping products so quickly that you know that 10th thing will be there sooner or later. And that was all like very, very intentional.
Was email your main way of communicating that message to your users, or was there a community platform?
So we send an email to like all the product updates or email, but then we post it to Twitter, LinkedIn, every social platform essentially.
It's almost like your content strategy was just constant new feature, explaining why it's good for them. So you're educating them, providing them value on how to make their job better. A lot of them probably don't even know they need that feature, but since you've lived it for so long, you're educating them with content while also providing it for them.
Yeah. I mean, again, it all comes
That's a cool content strategy.
It all comes from the anxiety of not thinking we're good enough and that we need to
That's so
we
true.
need to prove that we are aware of where we are coming up short, and we're actively prioritizing building those features to make them better. And we are trying to prove to other people that we can deliver. And when we say this will be live in 2 months, we're going to do it. And we're not like building dumb things. We're like really just taking a ton of data points from what people are complaining about and being very realistic with ourselves of where we could be stronger and continuing to build in those areas. And so that's been a lot of our growth strategy.
How many do you have partners, I assume?
So I have my 2 co-founders, and then our team's like 20 right now.
20? Oh
Yeah.
my God. What were when you chose your partners, did they have like complementary skills, or kind of like why did you choose those partners, or how did you guys come together real quickly?
Yeah. So my 2 co-founders are Ben and Jake. So when I was at Morning Brew, 22 years old, we needed to hire another engineer, and Ben was the first person that I've ever hired in my life. So has a special place in my heart because like he was so much smarter and more talented than every other person I looked at. And he's like a 10x engineer who's so creative.
Oh, wow.
And so I loved working with him.
How old is he?
3 years younger than me, crazy enough. So really young. He's 26. Just had a kid yesterday. Congrats, Ben.
Good man.
So after working with him for 2.5 years at Morning Brew, I knew like if I started a company, I wanted an engineer like him on my team. And then one of his best friends at school was also an engineer. And on my way out of Morning Brew, we brought in his best friend, Jake. And so when I went to Ben, I was like, Ben, you're the smartest person I know. Like, I'm going to build this company. I want you to come. And he goes, well, Jake's the smartest person I know. I go, oh, that makes sense. So they're actually, I wouldn't say like as complementary. Like they're both software engineers. I have a technical background, but I do more of like the marketing and content and the market type
CEO.
stuff.
That's really cool. Okay, and they were just available? Or did they like...
I mean, they
really
were doing this as a side project while they were working at Morning Brew. And then when again, like we de-risked this as much as possible. I waited till we had like the term sheet signed and money in the bank before I quit my job, and they quit their job to go all in.
Okay, so basically you were at Google working on the side, you got your friends to help you on the side, then you built this thing in 10 months, then you raised, so you had like an MVP that was clickable, probably working, raised off that, then launched with strategic investors. You literally chose these people based on their ability to help you bring the tool to market. And then you had the viral loops built in from the start. Beehiiv is the domain, the links at the bottom. These people started using it, and it just started growing from there. There was like no more marketing needed.
I mean, there's so many small but like intentional things we did. So like all built on like the insecurities of not having the most built out product. There's like the building of the features and like that whole initiative. So there's product led growth is like the big thing. Is like the term that everyone loves throwing around. But like it literally, like we didn't spend money for the first 12 months on growth. It was literally the links and the website and the newsletter, and then building a narrative and letting our users know word of mouth.
Explain the narrative that you chose.
So the narrative was one, like just the credibility of Morning Brew's like the leading newsletter that everyone knows, and the
Morning Brew in a box.
The team who built Morning Brew is now building the software.
Great
platform.
narrative.
So credibility is there.
Yeah.
If you know nothing else, but you look up or you've been reading Morning Brew for 4 years and you joined a company who's launching a newsletter, you're like, I wanted to emulate Morning Brew, and like the team behind Morning Brew just launched this other software platform. So that's a narrative. The other narrative is what we just talked about, which is the product-led growth. Like we're just going to ship product that I know moves the needle for our users time and time again. So like if you're ever on the, like, let's say you do get pissed off with us and you're like, hey, we need something. The hope is in their mind, they don't have this feature or it's not that great, but you trust the team based on how much we've launched so quickly to date that we're aware that it's not a 10 out of 10 and that we're working on it. And if you continue to deliver like that, one, it keeps the current users happy or believing that the features will come and will get better, or it shows to the market that whatever we're missing will come. So that's like the other narrative. And then the third narrative is we are so growth focused, and with the referral program and the other features that we have, a lot of people start a newsletter and then they have success. They have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. And we have like and this was actually not intentional per se, but like the pink that we use and like our dashboard chart, it's very noticeable. And so,
love the combo.
And so people started screenshotting organically, just hit 20,000 subscribers, screenshot of their chart. You see the pink chart and like the milestone. And like one, again, like insecure and like I want to support that person. So I go, that's awesome. You hit 20,000. One, it feels amazing as a founder. Like you built something on our platform. Like I made a bunch of bets. Like I think this feature would be valuable. I think people could benefit from this. Turned out to be right. You use them and now you're 20,000 subscribers. Like that's awesome. So I like it and I retweet it because like that's great and I want to support them. But what that retweet does then shows other people in my network and their network, like, look who's having success on Beehiiv. So it shows people hitting milestones and success and everything that the platform works. And then it also shows like, oh, if I tweet my milestone, Tyler and the Beehiiv account are going to like it and retweet it. So then it encourages other people to say, okay, I just hit 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to tweet at Tyler or Beehiiv and show that I hit a milestone. So I like and retweet it. And like, this was like, in retrospect, very intentional, but like in the moment, I didn't have like a master plan of like, this is how we're going to do it.
It feels natural.
And I was just like, oh, that's awesome. And like, again, it feels amazing as a founder that you took a huge bet and people are benefiting from the software we built. So I support them and I retweet it because it looks good for us, looks good for them. And before you know it, every time someone's hitting a milestone, which is now like dozens of people a day, they're tweeting at us. And the narrative that builds is, one, the software works, that you can grow really quickly, and that everyone's moving to Beehiiv. Because a lot of these people didn't start a newsletter.
It becomes like the trend in this newsletter community.
Because they started on one of our competitors, whether it's like a legacy tech or the other players, and they made a conscious decision at some point to leave that and move to us, and now they're hitting milestones. So when you put it all together, the innocent bystander on Twitter sees like constant milestones, or like more and more people that launch newsletters on other platforms now having success on us. And the narrative is, one, everyone's moving to Beehiiv to send newsletters, and two, everyone's having success on Beehiiv. And like that combination,
you correlate it. Like, people's newsletters are growing fast, they're on Beehiiv.
And then
I need to be on Beehiiv.
Once I realized that, like, we've also had like 5 or 6 newsletters launch on Beehiiv and get acquired like within a year. Like Milk Road's like probably the biggest example. They launched with no subscribers. Like Ben Levy, Sean's partner, was like DMing me like where to buy a domain and like how to set it up and like the DNS stuff. So like literally from zero. And like, of course, they have the benefit of having a large podcast distribution, but they took that to 250,000 subscribers in 10 months and flipped it
at a good time too.
For a good time, for a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And that narrative of you can go from zero to getting acquired for multiple millions of dollars and like, they didn't build like a custom flashy website. Like they used our website. They had our branding on it at the bottom of every single newsletter. They never asked to white label it. They sent using our custom templates and newsletters. They used our referral program, led to like 50,000 subscribers of referrals on there. Like, it worked really well. It was a total proof of concept that you could come into our software with nothing but an idea, execute, not get super flashy. You don't need like custom websites with videos and NFTs and this. They just created content daily and sent it out and had a referral program, and they sold it for millions of dollars. And so that's the big one.
I mean, that shows they were just the perfect time, like the crypto bull run.
For sure.
Every like perfect variable came together. And now AI is doing the same thing for you.
Now we have like a ton of AI.
And we're going to do every single year with every new trend.
But we have so many, I think we have up to about 10 newsletters that started on us and have since been acquired. None as big as Milk Road, but like college students who are making like $50,000 to an acquisition.
Ton of money.
And they were already making money through sponsorships as they were building. And then they got an acquisition of like $50K and they're like a junior in college. And one, I think it shows the power of the newsletter economy. It's a huge proof of concept for us. But we've built that narrative as well. So like,
Great narrative.
I think we've had like 8 or 9 people get acquired. And I like retweet the story with like the commentary of like, can't believe another newsletter on Beehiiv got acquired.
I do not do sponsors on this podcast. So if you do learn something, the only thing I ask is that you send the link of this episode to a friend.
If anyone wasn't clear on what he's talking about, when you have like, you load your Beehiiv account and they have like this trademark, like pink and blue, like line chart of your growth. So you have like 1,000 subscribers the first month, 5,000 this month. So it's like a line graph, and people will screenshot that and put that on Twitter, and then he'll retweet it and share it, and like cultivates this little community and this concept of sharing your growth. And if you see that as a viewer, you start associating that to Beehiiv.
And it shows you like the power of distribution. Like, I'm doing this when I started. I think I had like 2,000 followers on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it. I think I have like 13,000 now. So like, I'm not massive, but if you were to deploy this strategy with a significantly larger follower like base, like, that's incredible, right? So but that's why when you're talking about like, as you're scrolling through Twitter, everything you see is like another person launching a newsletter. Like, I feel like I live on such a bubble of people hitting milestones on Beehiiv and like newsletters that are launching and making money and whatever. But it makes you think of like, where else can we deploy this strategy to build narratives on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram? Because like, yes, I'm sure there's like a pretty strong overlap of like Twitter, people who are active on Twitter and people with newsletters. But I feel like it's like fairly limiting, and we're like in the early stages of deploying that narrative and content.
And it's really probably only in America. Like,
Yeah, and
globally, I can't even imagine what's to come. So
yeah, and we do support a bunch of different international.
that's cool. All the different languages that you guys have. I heard that in another podcast. That was a really cool idea. But the referral program is something that you guys are like kind of known for and trademarked. So I have two questions on this. Do you want to kind of explain how yours works? Because I know it's like only kind of for people that are also on your platform in a way. Because not necessarily the referral program to help people grow their newsletter. That's pretty obvious. But kind of like that, I forgot what you called it. I'm so sorry. But when I have a newsletter, then I can
the recommendations.
The recommendations.
Boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can walk. Which one do you want me to walk through? All of them, sure.
Yeah,
So the referral.
Explain how you came up with them and then what they do.
Yeah, so the referral program, going back to Morning Brew, very simply put, is you are incentivized as a reader to share the newsletter with other people. So you read Morning Brew, you think it's great, you share it with your colleague at work, and then you get like stickers or like a premium newsletter or like a t-shirt.
So is it credits or is it literally like...
It's like referral credit. So if I shared it with my 3 coworkers with like my unique link, I get 3 credits and I can like redeem whatever, like a milestone for like a coffee mug. And so that is what led to when I was at Morning Brew over 1 million subscribers. It's basically saying like, I already have a loyal audience. How can I make them share it where I don't have to like pay for growth on Facebook and Instagram? They're going to tell their friend, family, mom, dad, whatever. So we basically built that as a growth engine that anyone on Beehiiv can say, at these different milestones, we'll offer these different rewards. We don't do the fulfillment. We have like fulfillment partners if you want to, but it's like the basic foundation of being able to offer that as a growth strategy for your newsletter. So that's like one growth strategy.
So if someone sends the newsletter and their friend signs up with their link, they get a point and they can use that point to buy or get a free mug.
Yeah, or the point could be like a PDF, like what worked really well for Milk Road, going back to them. At one referral, you got a PDF explaining what like the top 10 crypto experts think about the market going into 2022. And like as someone who signed up for Milk Road, like you're interested in crypto, you obviously are probably investing in crypto in some capacity. So for one referral to now get what 10 experts are telling you what to invest in, like I'd share it with someone for that.
Oh, yeah. And so your friends are probably interested in if they're your friends. So.
And what's super advantageous for Milk Road and any of these newsletters is like the digital products, like a PDF, like doesn't cost money to fulfill. So Morning Brew was like on one end of the spectrum where they were shipping mugs, t-shirts, crew necks, whatever. Like it works and like it backs into a lot of price. That's like, but we had interns at NYU and now I think they like have like a fulfillment center that actually does all of that. But like physical logistics is like a whole thing. Anyway, that's the referral program. The other thing that we did at Morning Brew was we would find other newsletters that had a similar audience demographic and say, promote Morning Brew and we'll promote you. It's like, we'd be like, hey, we're each 50,000 subscribers big. It's like a free ad. Say, I start my day with Morning Brew. We'll plug your newsletter. We each grow from this. It costs $0. We each get like 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers. Like that's
a cross promotion, basically.
It's a cross promotion. So then Morning Brew grew bigger and bigger, and we'd be like 5 times the size. And it was like a cross promotion, but they'd plug us 5 times. We'd plug them once. And we did that game over and over again. And so it was always our game plan to launch a cross promotion network where you can find other newsletters that have a similar audience demographic, but maybe not the same overlap. So maybe there's like a 2% overlap. So you're hitting net new people and you just want to, it's like a free house ad. It's a cross promotion. So the recommendation network is basically that. You can find newsletters based on content category, based on size, based on audience overlap, and say, I like these 3 crypto newsletters, so I'm going to recommend them as well. The hope is that they see that they are you're driving subscribers to them, and like one click, they can send subscribers back to you. So it's really just one big cross promotion network. So that's like step 1 of like another growth mechanism, like free to use on the platform. And like you build like bubbles. So a lot where it works best is 5 newsletters who are all like medium to large, all promote each other. And they all go viral on LinkedIn or Twitter. And like they're the first to know that someone else in their pod is going viral. Because as soon as one person has a viral tweet and like in the links it's sign up to my newsletter, thousands of people sign up to their newsletter. And through the recommendation network, those other 3 newsletters that he's recommending are now getting hundreds of subscribers for free.
And it's just one click.
It's one click, toggle in. And so that's like the network effects of building a little pod and being able to grow for free. And again, like it all goes back to Morning Brew. Like we saw the cross promotion network working.
These are the details that show that you like know this niche industry so well, where the MailChimp to the Klaviyo might overlook it. Like there's like trying to send emails, whether you're for a company, it's for a drip campaign, it's a newsletter, it all works. Where you're like, this is for newsletters, this is for growth. if someone reads this newsletter about AI, they're probably going to like these others. So let's let them cut deals where anytime someone subscribes to your newsletter, they have an agreement where you put your email here. So if you like our newsletter, you'll probably like these 3. Would you like to subscribe? Yes, yes, yes. Now everybody's getting a new subscriber.
And a lot of people are only subscribing after they follow this person on Twitter or LinkedIn for a while. So they already like their content.
Exactly.
And they trust them.
Yep.
So you've been following this person on Twitter for months. They just launched a newsletter. You trust their recommendation. They recommend 3 other newsletters in that content space. You're probably going to opt into them. And now it's a free growth mechanism. And that's like where the credibility and experience of what we built at Morning Brew comes into play. Because I knew that cross promotions were like an incredible growth channel for Morning Brew for a while, where we didn't have to pay for growth. And I also knew what newsletters we were looking at, what we were looking like. Is it size? Is it open rate? Is it audience demographic? And building that directly into the product is something like, oh, we want to send emails. Like there's a big difference between we want to send emails and we know what it takes to build a newsletter of 3 million people. And like it's the trial and error of that we've done cross promotion for years and built that network that made it a no-brainer to build it into our product.
This is going to be taking cross-promotion to the extreme. And anyone that reads a newsletter only has so much time in the morning, so much attention. And so if they subscribe to 5 newsletters, you're almost giving your newsletter subscribers to your competitor in a way. Because if they start making a better product than you, this person can only spend 20 minutes reading in the morning. They stop reading your newsletter. So because we've done this before.
Yep.
And it seems like there's a balance. Like you don't want to overdo it, you don't want to underdo it, but there's definitely value there. So what's your counter argument to that? Or what's your opinion on that?
I mean, I think everyone's always worried about saturation to some capacity. One is you're usually pretty strategic of who you're recommending. So if it's the exact same audience and it's like a competing newsletter, most people, like we would never at Morning Brew do a cross promotion with like The Hustle. Okay. They were like our big competitor.
It's like niche adjacent.
It's like we're kind of targeting the same people, but you're writing about emerging technology and we're writing about AI prompts.
Gotcha.
So it's not like a one-to-one comparison. And a lot of times it's like, hey, we do twice a week and you do weekly. Or like you kind of like, I mean, you pick and choose who you want to promote. And so I think most people are savvy enough not to choose like a competitor to saturate their own audience. So that's like the main counter argument, but it's like up to you in general, like who you're recommending.
There's a very real hustle of like starting a newsletter or starting 5 newsletters in different industries, running them up to 100,000 people and then selling them like for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So have you seen, since you've been so deep in this and I'm just so new, I always wondered, now that these tools exist and they're so easy to Beehiiv, does that lower the average value of a newsletter because they can grow more quickly, but then that retention or the churn is a little higher, retention's lower, churn's higher, because you can get them easier from that network?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Morning Brew sold for $4 million, or had 4 million subscribers, sold for 75 million. Hustle sold for 25 million with a few million subscribers. So does that now, like, what is the KPI? And
you're almost saying like it's becoming so easy to grow. It almost feels like a cheat code. Like you can go from 0 to 100K subscribers. And are those 100K subscribers as valuable and engaged as it was in like the olden days where you were like hustling and like spending a ton of money and converting people and there wasn't all of these growth engines? I get what you're saying. I haven't seen like a depreciation in like the worth of a newsletter yet. I can see like it maybe getting there where if you're just cross promoting the same readers across the same newsletters, I'd also say like we have
like botting newsletters at that point. Yeah.
I think I don't want to misquote how many unique readers we have. I'm completely blank.
You guys have all that data too?
Yeah. So I mean, like unique emails that we have across the ecosystem, and it's a lot, right? So it's not that. Yes, I think we live in the small bubble of like this AI newsletters now promoting this AI prompts newsletter, which is promoting this like emerging technology newsletter. The internet's so big and there's so many unique content categories of like, here's how you find freelance writing jobs in the Midwest, or like there's so many different newsletters and content categories that exist that in our small bubble, I think there's a lot of the same readers that have the same information diet of I read these 5 newsletters where you might see like a diminished or perceived diminished value. But in the grand scheme of things, we have so many unique readers that are reading different types of content where I don't think we've hit that point yet. But I think it's a good point to call out. Like it just feels like
functionally, it's a huge benefit, and it's on the owner of the newsletter to make due diligence there. But I can see people like as all people do, they take things to the extreme where they could just kind of like abuse it to try to run up and get a valuation. So I don't know if you know this, but for Morning Brew, like how did they choose 75 million? Like it's not just off 4 million subscribers. Is it more so about like open rate, click-through rate, and then sponsorship revenue? Or like, did they ever have internal products that they sold themselves and it's that revenue? Because it can't just be off of number of subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like they were large enough where like the revenue multiple was like a normal, like, I don't know, 2 to 4x revenue multiple.
So just
also like caveat, I was not involved with any of the acquisition talks at all. Like I left without even knowing that they were going to get acquired. So that was news to me when I woke up like my second week at Google. Crazy. And I was like, holy shit, Morning Brew just got acquired. That's kind of cool. Yes, I don't know like the whole negotiation, but they were making enough revenue in the scale of like probably between 10 and 20 million where you can see the growth trajectory and get like a normal valuation.
So it's more so about the revenue the company's making and not the subscriber number.
It's if you're not monetizing yet, to go to a company, unless like, so a great example, like I think the Hustle acquisition is so smart because they have a very particular demographic of readers. And if you're HubSpot and you're spending so much money on like paid media and paid acquisition, to have a daily newsletter that people have built a habit around and have a brand association, and to, instead of promote whatever for advertising revenue, just promote HubSpot because it's a large enterprise software solution that
almost all
10 conversions a week and they're ROI positive and like they can keep scaling. So like I love that play.
That makes so much sense.
That might be, so that if you are that type of acquirer, like it's probably a different equation for you where revenue doesn't actually matter as much. It's how engaged is the audience, how large is the audience, what's the growth trajectory, does that fit into my business? And if I'm a emerging AI business and I just need people to adopt my product and there's like a Milk Road equivalent in AI, then it's like, okay, here's a brand that people trust. There's a habit because they read it every single morning, Monday through Friday. And instead of shilling other AI products, now they're only pushing people down funnel into our product. Then like, I don't give a shit how much money they're making. I just want that user base and I want to continue to grow.
If you have the context.
But if you're a media play, then it's probably revenue, right? It's
right.
If I'm paying $1 million for this media asset because it's making $100,000 a year, I think in 3 years we'll be making more than $1 million, $2 million.
It's just sponsors, CPM, whatever.
That's why newsletters are so powerful. It doesn't always have to be sponsorship. It could be pushing people into a paid community, right? So maybe we have, if we're a product management newsletter, we can have a Slack channel or a Discord of 50 of the top PMs at Google, Uber, Facebook, Meta, Snapchat, whatever. And you can learn weekly from these webinars or like whatever it is. Any top of funnel, like the emails are the ultimate top of funnel. And to have a product, whether it's like a paid community that people pay $99 a month to be a part of a Slack channel, like if you have 100,000 people reading your newsletter and trust what you say, the conversion rate of a few percent paying you $99 a month for a community is like a pretty great business. So that's why I think so many solopreneurs and side projects have been born of email. It all starts with creating amazing content. But if you can create good content and people are engaged, people are sharing, people are actively reading, what you do with that, you don't need to know day one, but year one, year two, you can launch communities, you can do paid subscriptions, you can do sponsorships, you can do affiliates.
So what are the different types of newsletters that you've seen? Like, so it's like sponsorships, then you like have your own products that you can sell through the newsletter. Then you have affiliate links promoting other people's
which
products.
Are kind of just like
what you can do both.
Which are like bottom of, and yeah, that's the other thing too. It's not mutually exclusive. Like you could launch a paid newsletter where people pay you $10 a month for like a bonus issue weekly, for example. But you could also have ads on the daily newsletters as well. Like they're not mutually exclusive. And so where Substack made the big bet of I think it sounds great to say you can own your audience. Like don't be reliant on ad dollars. It's very cyclical. You have this direct relationship with your readers already. Why not charge them $10, $15, $20 a month for premium content that is a higher level of quality or has additional insights, which I think is great. And if you can warrant that, like I pay $12 a month to Ben Thompson's Stratechery, and I think it's great and I get value out of that. I think a lot of content creators found out that one, it's very difficult.
Yeah, they're right. Really, really good content.
It has to be good and
can't be found anywhere else,
right? Like it's really hard to like Morning Brew and a lot of these other popular newsletters aggregate news around the internet, and their value prop is you don't have to read 20 different business sources all day long.
Curating,
You're trusting our editors to compile and aggregate the most important topics of the day or of the week and break it down in consumable bits that are interesting to read. And that's great, but are people willing to pay for that? I'd say most likely not for like an aggregator type newsletter. So then it goes into like more expert analysis or inside tips, whether it's like stock trading or crypto news or like other alpha you can get, or just like really good entertainment that you would pay for, kind of like a Netflix, but it's kind of harder to do that. I haven't seen that played as well.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people default to Substack before Beehiiv existed because it was easier to understand. Oh, I can charge $10 a month for this newsletter and make money.
Same time, OnlyFans got very popular.
Exactly.
Patreon. It's the whole narrative in the market of
Patreon, yeah.
Own your audience, charge, like, why chase ad dollars? You can charge your readers who already love you and depend on your content to pay you $5, $10, $15, $20 a month. It makes perfect sense. But what you've seen with Hulu, what you've seen with Netflix, what you've seen with Disney is all of the direct subscription businesses are now offering advertising as well. Because one, subscription's tough, and advertise, like where there are companies who want new customers, which is everyone, there's an advertising business to be had. And that's what all of these businesses are starting to realize. And that's where a lot of content creators and newsletters understand that it's a lot of work to create a premium subscription offering. I have to be differentiated. It has to be quality. And I have to constantly annoy my audience to upsell them to pay for my premium newsletter. But advertising, granted, it's a whole nother beast that a lot of them don't want to deal with. But if you can get advertising dollars, you skip a lot of that.
It has been the biggest headache for us running the newsletter. There was like no system. You have to manage, like, how do you find people that want to sponsor your newsletter? Ours has only been out for like 5 months. We have like 70,000 people on it. How much do we charge for a sponsorship? How do we find these legitimate companies to sponsor? We don't want to sponsor a scam. You have to vet them. You have to handle 15 conversations at once. You have to schedule out which sponsor goes out one day. It's so much work. But I think Beehiiv's about to change that. And this is why I think that it's probably the most valuable thing that I've heard you say, is you guys are trying to make the Facebook ads platform of newsletters. Because as a solo creator, you don't want to deal with all that I just mentioned for finding sponsors. But at the same time, then you don't have to worry about churn. You don't have to worry about pissing off your audience. You're not pushing anything on them. So they still trust you. You can offer the newsletter for free so as many people can read it, but you just have a sponsor here to pay the bills for you. So go into what I think is going to be the most groundbreaking aspect of Beehiiv is your ad network.
And like to take a step back, Morning Brew made their 15 to 20 million when they sold off of ad dollars.
Yeah.
So the hustle was entirely I think they had trends as well, but primarily ad-based, Axios ad-based. So a lot of these newsletters that you are familiar with and have went on to sell were advertising-based newsletters, and that's where a lot of the dollars go in content and media in general. And so I think you did a pretty good job of painting the pain points of, as a publisher or newsletter writer, where do you go to find sponsorships? Do you actually understand your audience, like who they are, what's the demographic, what are they more likely to click on, what ads are they interested in? So there's like audience development data that you need to do. You need to then find what brands they align with, what fits with your brand, who's the right person to get in contact with at these different brands. How do you price your newsletter? What are the expected results? And then you have to do the reporting, the invoicing. Like, it's a full operation. It's why the sales and brand partnerships team at Morning Brew was the largest team, because there's so many moving parts to that. So I think the pain points on the newsletter side is pretty straightforward. You want to create a newsletter because you're creative, you're ambitious, you are good and interested in writing about something.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't create a newsletter to sell brand sponsorships. And so that's like the pain point on that side. On the other side, as the brand and the advertiser, let's say you have a large advertising budget and you're advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, like the typical digital ad platforms. You now want to experiment with newsletters. You've done a few newsletter buys. It works really well. Let's say you're targeting women in their 30s. You find a massive newsletter like The Skim who targets that demographic. You pay them one upfront, like let's say $100,000 to run a single newsletter send. And it's a big risk. It's like an all-in-one, like I am purchasing a single send. Maybe it just so happens that day that the story above or below it is so engaging, it actually takes away clicks from me as the advertiser. Maybe the newsletter flops. Maybe the open rate sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of risk involved with putting a lot of upfront capital into a single newsletter send. And those are like the downsides. Let's say the upside, it goes great. And you want to advertise again in that newsletter, they might be booked up and like you can't get another placement for another 2 months. So you're like, okay, I found a newsletter that was primarily women in their 30s. It converted really well. We can't run in that newsletter for another 2 months. And it might, after we've run it 2, 3, 4 times, get saturated with that exact same audience. So then your problem becomes, where are there other newsletters that are similar to that? And so where do you look for these newsletters? So now you're like, Googling what newsletters do women in their 30s read, what are newsletters similar to the Skim, and now you have a list of like 15 to 20 different newsletters. Now you have to find the people at those newsletters and be like,
I haven't thought about that.
hey, are you accepting advertising? I haven't seen an advertisement in your newsletter. Would you be open to that? You have to get in contact with the right person.
So much outreach.
So you're like, now there's someone on that marketing team that is doing all of this outreach to newsletters. And then when you get in contact with the newsletter, like you're just trusting their data you're like, okay, so like how big is your newsletter? They're like, oh, we're like 100K. And like, okay, well, like what's the open rate? They're like, I don't know. Like, is it unique opens? Is it total opens? Do you trust their data? Do you ask them for like a screenshot of like, hey, let me see your dashboard?
Photoshop.
Like, how big is your newsletter? What's your open rate? What's your click-through rate? And then you also ask like, who's your audience? And to be honest, like email's so opaque. It's just like an email. It's someone at gmail.com. They don't know who their audience is at all. So you're trusting these random newsletters that you found on a Google search that have a similar demographic, maybe, and you're trusting their numbers, their audience, and there's only so many that you're going to find. So it's very manual. So as the advertiser, which I think actually might be the bigger pain point, is if I know that I want to advertise and diversify away from Meta, Facebook, Google, and newsletters have worked really well for us because newsletters are typically very niche audiences where you trust the person. You've been following them on Twitter, you follow them on social, you sign up to their newsletter, you trust the products that they're putting in the newsletter. That's why it performs really well. And now you want to get in front of a bunch of different newsletters. Where do you go to do that? And the solution would be on our platform saying you want to put $100,000, and rather than it being one big newsletter buy, we would actually diversify your spend across like 30 different newsletters. We have all the first party data of who the subscribers are, what they've clicked on historically. So we know that this person always clicks on CNBC and Yahoo Finance links, so they're interested in finance and investing. They also click on NBA links, so they're interested in the NBA, and a bunch of like right-leaning politics stuff. So they're like a Republican that's interested in the NBA and investing, and with their IP address and location, like are located in the Northeast. So now we have like a huge like customer profile of these different readers.
Because I would never see that. If someone subscribed to my newsletter, all I know is that person is subscribed to my newsletter. But since they're subscribed to my newsletter on your platform, you can see what other newsletters they're also subscribed to on your platform.
So using our platform, you can collect data yourself, and you do see like location data. You see like if you ask them their favorite sports team, like that's data that you own, you can export it, you can see that on charts. What you can see is what the other newsletters on our platform are collecting. So we kind of have like a...
But that would benefit us.
That would benefit you because now we know who your audience is outside of you, so we can get you better advertisers at a better rate, and they'll perform better. So they'll keep dishing you more money. And so now what we've solved is the pain point of newsletters where you don't have to go out and go to like the 15 brands that you think might advertise in your newsletter and then pitch them on your newsletter and spend a ton of time doing that because it's a total pain in the ass.
It's like YouTube for you, like my YouTube AdSense.
We're dishing you ads. We're saying you're creating your newsletter. You have 5 open ad opportunities. Here's the 5 advertisers. Here's the copy. Which one do you like the most? And you'll get paid approximately $2,000 for that, $1,500 for that, whatever. And you choose which one aligns with you the most and you pick it. And there's no obligation or contract. Like you don't need to promise us that you're going to run these ads. So that is totally up to you. And you also might have your own brand deals where you have your own advertiser and you can say no to all of ours and make more money with your own. And that's totally fine. Like we are in the camp of we want our newsletters to make as much money as possible and grow as fast as possible. And whether you use our ads or your own ads, whatever you want to do, like we're in favor of helping you do that.
It's there if you want it. And
it's there if you want it. And if you don't want it, don't take it. And then on the flip side, as an advertiser, you can get in front of thousands, tens of thousands of the top newsletters in the world and be placed because of first-party data. And it's just like you're hitting a long tail of content creators. Like you'll hit newsletters that maybe have 500 subscribers that you have no business even going to that because it's too small for you. But if we hit 30 newsletters of 500 subscribers, it actually adds up to impressions that can move the needle.
Yeah, because all you care about, it doesn't matter. You don't care if it's just one newsletter 500. You just want 30,000 impressions. I just want
30,000 impressions.
There's a dense audience of 500 people. So
and you can go to a newsletter of 30,000 subscribers, which might convert okay. But what if there's like 60 newsletters of 500 subscribers?
Super dense, really like passionate audiences
that are going to convert so much higher. Like, and it'll perform so much better for the advertiser. But it's just too much of a time commitment for any marketer to do at any of these companies.
$30.
So like, if done right, there's like a lot of big data play and there's like a lot of features and functionality to be built. But if done right, it really is a win-win-win for the advertisers to hit audiences that are very engaged at scale, for newsletters to get monetized and make money without having a sales team, without having to deal with the copy creation, the branding, the invoicing, the reporting, and then a win for us, obviously, because we were building this marketplace.
RIP to newsletter ad agencies. Or it becomes like way more available to be a newsletter ad agency. It's like a Facebook ad agency now.
Right. Like we would ideally, like the newsletter agencies, ad agencies would be a customer of ours and bring their clients on. And it makes their job so much easier, right? So similar to like a Facebook ad manager agency as well.
I think that is the most genius thing possible in the space. Has anyone ever tried it before?
So no. I'll say a few things. There is traditional pixel-based ad networks that exist in email that are really shitty banner ads.
Well, you have UTM links where people can track the conversion rates, like what led to
eventually we'll go full funnel, have pixels on like the advertiser's website and actually track conversion of everything. So like when I say like Facebook ad manager for literally letters, like that is where we're going on like the 5-year horizon. There's been players that have banner ads and email newsletters that don't convert well and it costs pennies. And those have been around for a while. That being said, multi-billion-dollar businesses, so like there's a lot of money there. Like there's a lot of emails being sent in the world and they're so low effort. They drop in a pixel and now you're monetizing and you don't have to deal with anything as the newsletter. So that exists. But like data is very limited, right? Like we own the entire ecosystem from where the content creators are creating content to where the data is populating because of who's opening, who's clicking, who's saying that their favorite sports league is the NBA. Like we have all of the data end to end. So we're in like a very unique position to do that. So there are like players in like the email ad space that have taken an agnostic view with pixel-based banner ads. And then there's a few competitors that have experimented since I have been talking about this and saying that this is what we're building, that they have tried that.
Good for you for talking about it.
But the different advantage is like this has been the game plan from day one.
Yeah.
So we were collecting data and building tools and infrastructure day one, knowing that the ad network was always the end play. If you were to ask me, it sounds like a lot less sexier, but like as a capitalist, probably more optimistic of like day one, we're building the largest ad network in email. But like, how do you get there? And how do you make it the most beneficial to newsletters and advertisers? Is I think you have to own the system end to end and not just be a pixel based.
100%.
So how do you get there? You have to build the best newsletter platform where it attracts all of the top newsletters to use your software. So it is like a very intentional stepwise process of saying like, in order to build the biggest newsletter ad network that exists, you need to have billions of impressions and emails being sent, which means you need to have tens of thousands of the top and largest newsletters using your software, which means you need to build all of the kick-ass features that attract people to grow and monetize on your platform to have newsletters move over to then monetize those assets. So it's like kind of like playing chess in a way, but like that was always the end goal. And we're still executing in like the first inning of just building like the core foundational tech that attracts newsletters to launch and start on our platform.
Words can't describe how smart I think that is and how needed it is, because sponsorships are they're better for the audience because you can grow, make the free newsletter, you get as many people to get free value, and it's just a sponsored post that people are used to. But the pain point has always been organizing for the everyday person who's not an entrepreneur. Now you don't need to make a product. You don't need to charge $10 for your newsletter, which people churn out of, or it loses trust with your audience unless you're like specifically detailed. And so if you could literally just take out that whole pain point of having to organize ads for the newsletter side, genius. And on from the ad side, equally as convenient. And so you had that plan from the start. And so it was literally your first plan was like, I guess it's phases. Phase 1, launch with core functionality and a referral program. The referral programs are advantage plus easy to sign up and viral loops. That'll lead to product-led growth. Then you're going to add the boosts. Is it the boosts?
Yeah.
Add the boosts, make the product better, grow a community, engage with the community, deliver on your promises, constantly iterate or constantly develop new features, and then let them know every single week, share their progress, celebrate their success. And then ultimately, once you have enough users, you have that critical mass of people, you have the data of all the people signing up, then you have this custom Facebook ads.
And so now we're, 19 months in, we're doing 400 million impressions a month. And like, that's enough to turn to an advertiser or like an agency and say, we have some of the top publishers, content creators, influencers in the world in AI, crypto, fashion, sports, politics. If that's an audience that you want to get in front of,
You could do it internally, manually.
so that we are doing it manually to start. And so to date, I mean, this will change very soon, but to date, like, you can run an ad agency without the tech. So we know we have all the data. We know who our top newsletters are. We know their conversion rates. We know their click-through rate. We know what advertisers and advertisements have performed better historically. And so we don't need the tech per se to be built day one. And it also allows us the wiggle room to learn from like what the newsletters want, what pain points they have when inserting the ad, what the agencies and advertisers are looking for. So it really is like building the plane while you're flying it, in the sense of like, why go heads down and build the entire infrastructure and tech that I just described, like super tight, when we can like build like the core foundation, then do it manually for a bit, see what advertisers want. They're like, hey, we really need this data, or like, this is the demographic data that moves the needle for us, or we need real-time reporting. And then it's like, okay, well, we haven't invested and wasted time building XYZ off the wrong assumptions. Now that we have this feedback, we're going to spend the next month building that. And I'd say Ben just had a kid yesterday, so we're a little delayed, but the goal would be in the next month or so to roll out like in-platform ad opportunities and like really make it real.
Okay. You are creating a new make money online opportunity, and this is like kind of what my audience and my world is on YouTube, is a newsletter ad agency. If you're listening to this, you're a 16, 22-year-old kid hustling, looking for a way to make money online, go learn Beehiiv and learn how to make Beehiiv ads for newsletters. Everyone is talking about Facebook ads. Everybody's talking about social media marketing. You probably never heard of newsletter ads. We run a newsletter. Our ads are making us a lot of money. These companies are selling for hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you can figure out how to run ads on newsletters on their network now, that's going to be a huge agency opportunity where you're just connecting advertisers to newsletters. You can convince YouTubers to make a newsletter, say it's going to make you an extra $5,000 a month, and then set up and run their ads manager for their newsletter, and you can take a cut of that or charge a monthly retainer. I've never thought about that. That is so cool.
I mean, that's also been one of the coolest things in this journey, is seeing businesses built off of our business.
Around your that's
so we now have a lot of agencies specific to Beehiiv that help you set up your Beehiiv account, build your landing page, build your newsletter.
Automate it.
We have like growth strategies. So someone who knows, okay, I can run Facebook and Instagram ads for your newsletter, but I can also tie that in with the recommendation. I know which newsletters are better for recommendations. We can put a little budget into the Boost network. We can put some budget into this. We can have like SEO optimized content. We can have a pop-up form and email gate certain posts. We can drive traffic to that. And like, by really knowing the content ecosystem and all the tools that we've built, like, we have hit the point, which I knew we would get, is where we're almost too feature rich. Where it's like a newcomer, it becomes like a little overwhelming. You're like,
that's how I felt.
So we're building resources now. We're building like a Beehiiv 101 resource where
you got a lot of good ones though, like the core function.
It's a little convoluted. Like, we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We have a blog. We have Zendesk articles. Like, we have a knowledge base, but we don't have like here's everything you would need to know, and you can pick and choose what you want to learn outside of like the YouTube tutorials. We also ship too quickly, where the YouTube tutorials, like the UI goes out of date in like 2 months. Like, we completely revamp the page. So we're building a Beehiiv 101 resource. But I say that because now we offer so much, which is great. So when people are like, hey, can you do X on Beehiiv? The answer used to be no to 9 out of 10 things. Now it's yes to 9 out of 10 things, which is great and empowering and allows people to launch more products and features. But it also means to the new users, it's very overwhelming. And so we now have businesses and agencies built on top of Beehiiv that we are either somewhat associated with or not at all, or they'll help you grow on Beehiiv. They'll help you set up better looking newsletters, templates, websites.
A newsletter growth agency would be a great business. Isn't that? Didn't you guys just partner with the guy that you just Matt
Gary? Yeah. So that's like our first like a partnership, and he does growth and ads, and he worked with like the Milk Road and a bunch of other content creators. But there's also like just setting up my account to make sure it works well. There's like customizing the newsletter template. There's customizing the website. And then there's growth, there's design, there's so many different components of what you're building here. And there's like an agency opportunity to specialize in either all of them or in any individual vertical.
That's so smart, because we're like, literally, I keep saying it, but we started our newsletter 5 months ago, and we've been running Facebook ads. We did Facebook ads for like our whole life. And so we're like getting 75-cent signups and just killing it over there. And then we're just learning all these different ways to market newsletters and grow them. And I think this is our first month of doing sponsors, and we have like 12K lined up for the first month.
Yeah, it's
and so anybody can just go to a YouTuber like me. We just happen to know what we're doing, but most YouTubers don't. Go to someone like me, say, hey, we'll start you a newsletter. We'll make you an extra, based on your audience, I bet you get 50,000 people. We'll make you an extra $10,000 this month, and you don't have to do anything.
There's also a huge business for like ghostwriting.
Yeah,
for
we'll transcribe your video
creators and YouTubers who just are like someone who's a YouTuber and amazing at creating like 5-minute videos that are super entertaining. And they're like, I don't give a shit about writing. Like, that's not my skill set. But I have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I bet you I can convert 5 to 10% of them to a newsletter. And now you're saying I can monetize on my YouTube channel, like automatically with like the AdSense, but I could also make 10K, 12K a month on my email newsletter. Why not spend 3K in a ghostwriting service who will do
like a done for you newsletter? We'll write it, we'll do the Beehiiv, we'll grow it, and we'll get the sponsors for you.
Easy. And so I think that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's like a creative agency play too, where they get the sign off of the creator. The creator's like, okay, this content works for me. It fits my brand. It's based off of the content I'm already creating on YouTube. They sign off, you get some trust back and forth, and now you basically have a newsletter in a box that you're making 15, 20, 25K a month on, and you're paying the service and the agency 5K.
It's a no-brainer. You're immediately adding value and making them money they didn't know existed. Like, I never thought a newsletter would be a real thing I would do 6 months ago.
But what they also don't realize too is like, as that newsletter gets better and better and scales, you're going to get people in the newsletter ecosystem that aren't even on your YouTube ecosystem. And at the bottom of every newsletter, when you're like,
in the booth,
hey, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now your YouTube channel is
you're cross-pollinating.
So that's like the real moneymaker that I think we're about to enter in with a few different partnerships.
I just got so much energy. That just got me so excited. I've been making all these videos on like AI automation agencies, but now I'm going to make one on newsletter agencies. Guys, I'm just trying to show you opportunities, but this is like,
great.
I've never thought about that. And that's like makes so much sense because you immediately make them more money and then grow their audience. It makes so much sense. So, wow, fantastic business you have here, brother. It's pretty cool.
Appreciate it.
Pretty cool shit. But I do want to ask you, what makes the business work? Like, how, like the software tools you guys are using internally, how are you actually like operating the business?
So we're 100% remote, which is, I'm a huge fan. I used to be such an office person, like morning brew days. I love going in, love the cold brew, love talking to people, love socializing, love happy hour. And I was the grumpiest person in the world when like COVID first hit off, because I was like in New York, tiny apartment, didn't have a place to work. Yeah. I was like working on my couch with my computer on my lap. And now I flip to the 180 where I can't imagine spending any time commuting. I wake up, I go to the gym, I come back, and I'm at my desk working from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I don't know if everyone on the team is working to that extent, but the fact that we can hire talent from around the world, we have engineers in the Netherlands, we have people in India, Canada, Mexico, Colombia. So we have a global team. We're 20 now. We're primarily engineering, and we have like a pretty well-oiled machine, I'd say, because like we've been so intentional about strategy. And the one thing that I think I do pretty well as a leader is very, very, very transparent communication. And so everyone's on the exact same page of this is what's working really well. This is where we're kind of shitting the bed in the business. This needs to get a lot better. And here's like our vision for the next quarter, for the next month, for the next week. And we all are rowing in the exact same direction. And it's been like a huge part of the success is really hiring talented people and having us all on the same page. Everyone's in their own workplace. Everyone's comfortable. Everyone's hustling. Everyone's bought in.
I think most companies are stuck in their ways, or most new companies see how other companies are ran, so they think that's how they have to do it. You have to have an office. You have to have everybody here. But it makes way more sense to just hire in any country if this person's skilled, good at the job. Doesn't matter about time zones. You have Zoom. You just have a Trello board or whatever to list out your sprints, and everyone's on the same page. Like, there is no real reason.
I think it's so archaic to think that we're going to have an office in Los Angeles.
Everyone has to be here.
And they hire people in LA. We would not be anywhere where we are if I only had talent from Los Angeles.
You're like actually at a disadvantage because you have to overpay people. You have to pay to move them there. And then you have way more, in my opinion, it's going to cause like human problems. So you have more need for management and like HR.
We just brought on our first HR person, but like that was like hire 20, right? So like, I don't know, as a remote, I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be done with HR in terms of like payroll and processes with that onboarding and recruiting, which I'm now learning now how much I was like had on my plate that I shouldn't have. But yeah, I mean, I fundamentally, just because I've only had so many jobs, but I think like paying someone to relocate to a different city and like uprooting like their spouse's job and like kids and schools and everything is like the craziest concept. Not to mention just like requiring people, like limiting your talent pool to a single location that can drive to an office that you're now paying for this office as well. Like I sound like such a millennial talking like this, but like, I fundamentally cannot comprehend why anyone would choose something differently. I talk to other startups and entrepreneurs who are building companies, and they always are like, how do you know people are getting shit done? And I was like, well, one, everything's very performance based, right? Like I think a lot of it stems from the fact that we are engineering based, and so here's the expectations of the 2 weeks. Like this feature does not exist today. It needs to exist by the end of the week, and this person's tasked to get it done. And it either gets done or it doesn't. And if someone continues to not get something done, it's very obvious. We do daily stand-ups. So you say what you've been working on and you say what you're working on today. And it becomes very apparent when someone isn't pulling their weight. And when the team is so high caliber and everyone else is pulling their weight, I think like human psychology, like you don't want to be the person who shows up to stand up and be like, honestly didn't get much done yesterday, and like I hope I can get this done today.
Whether you're in person or online.
Right.
It made sense. Like 30 years ago, you could literally only do a one-to-one phone call with a telephone that was connected to your wall. Like it made sense to pay someone $20,000 that's talented to move out there, and they would uproot their family.
People conflate being busy with getting shit done. True. And like that's the big difference too. Like we have an expectation of by the end of this sprint or the end of this week, these things that don't yet exist are going to exist. And here's who's going to do them. And like, there's no excuses. Like that is the output of the week. And if you can get it done in less time, then good for you. And like, you can watch Netflix if you want, but like,
you shouldn't punish people for being good at their job.
Yeah.
If
you are good enough, but like the thing is, we also have hired people with such a ownership mentality. They finish stuff early and they're like, what else can I do? Who can I unblock? And like, it's like really setting that culture and being very intentional early on. That's made it a no-brainer to hire a remote team.
So I'm assuming you do that on Zoom. That's how you manage.
We're a Google Meets team, actually. We don't pay for Zoom.
You got an affiliate link? Okay.
My ex-employer, actually. Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, okay. Fair enough. That actually makes sense. Okay. So what else do you use? Like, what's your tech stack? What, like, project management tools are you using? Are you using Slack?
Yeah.
Every single tool you used.
Yeah. So Slack's HQ, right? So that's like the main thing. I think you have to be really careful about Slack, too, as a remote team. Because I think, again, going back to people conflating busy with getting shit done, like it's really easy to Slack people all day. I'm like a huge like deep work, like focus nerd because I get very little of that. And so I try to instill that on the team of it's actually annoying as shit when you Slack your coworkers 15 times for every little thing that happens.
Like you need to turn it off for like 3 hours.
I don't have like the numbers in front of me, but the whole context switching and how much time it takes away from getting stuff done every time you get distracted, like adds up a ton throughout the day and throughout the week. So I caveat all that with like, yes, we use Slack. Yes, it's our central tool for communicating. Yes, it gets annoying. And I try to like, from a culture standpoint, be very intentional of when people should be slacking and when it can wait to a meeting, which leads us to our next tool. We use Google Meets. We're like a very meeting light team, and that's also very intentional. One, I hate meeting. I'm not someone who feels productive in meetings. I'm someone who feels productive with a to-do list of here's the 10 things I need to do this week,
outcome,
and checking them off and getting them done. Like people management, I know like as CEO, like yes, I manage people, but like I'd rather give them the autonomy to make their own decisions and deliver results.
That's what you call ownership mentality. Is that what you called it?
For sure. Yeah.
Explain the difference of that between other companies that you'd say.
I think there's a difference, one, like in startups, especially smaller startups, when you have equity in the company and like the upside is financially large for you for it to be successful. There's also like a small team culture and component of like us against the world. There are so many larger competitors and it's like fun. Like there's like, I would say most people in the team sign in the morning and like genuinely have fun at what they're doing. And that's because we have so many touch points with our users. People like when Milk Road gets acquired, like there are so many features that the engineers built that Milk Road plugged into that contributed to their success. And seeing that you spent 2 months building like the referral program feature or like the custom website or the custom newsletter formatting, they took advantage of it. Then they sold their business for many millions of dollars. And now everyone's praising one Milk Road to Beehiiv as a platform. And then knowing that you had a part either unblocking them on like the customer service side or building the actual tools that help them succeed. Like it's a really cool, tangible feedback loop. And so the more feedback loops and touch points you can get to your like early employees, the more they feel a part of the journey. And so when they're done working at like 4 or 5 p.m. and they're like, but I could launch this additional feature.
Yeah.
Because I saw on Twitter this one user just bitching about this all day long, and it'd be really cool. And I have the power to fix their problem, solve it, and then DM them or tweet like, hey, we just fixed that for you. And they get that touch point. And so many of our engineers take the ownership to go out of their way and be like, hey, I was like on Saturday, I was on Twitter, saw this person, said like, it'd be really cool if you did this. So Saturday night, I spent an hour, I built that feature. I tweeted at them that that's now available. And now you have like a lifelong fan in that Twitter person and that person on Twitter. And like people see that, they retweet it, and they're like, that's like real customer obsession. And like that's the autonomy and ownership I give all of our employees to take advantage of.
I feel like it's just the difference of milestones or like accomplishing an outcome or doing a task compared to you have to be here from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. Like, and you have to figure out stuff to do even if you don't think there's anything to do.
I'd say there's like an extra step too. There's like I just show up because I get paid on salary to be there from 9 to 5.
Do the bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum. And that's where people get worried. Like, how do you know they're not just like playing video games or like on Netflix all day? And like, if that's the kind of job and work environment you have, like that's what you're going to get. There's like the next step, which I alluded to, which is more milestone based. Like, here's the expectations. And I'd say we even go one step beyond that of like, we're building something bigger here and you have equity and are financially invested in one, like a career trajectory and opportunity to build something really cool. Like ideally people look back at, or you look back in 10, 15 years of your time at Beehiiv and you're like, we had something special. We were surrounded by 10, 15, 20 of the smartest people I've ever met. We were in a very competitive industry where everyone had more money than us. Everyone doubted us. We had so many investors say no. But like every day I woke up and I got to build something awesome. Users got to use my tech. I got to see how they used it, the success they had because of it. And like really building something that means something is like the evolution more than like, hey, the expectation is you're getting shit done. The expectation is you're getting things done, but you're also building and genuinely excited and interested to provide the value that you're providing because you're a part of this trajectory and team and this story. And so that's like where we are. And it was like very hard, but it's also because I think it starts with like me being obsessed with one success and our customers and our users and trying to provide value. The early co-founders having that same passion. And like every one person we hired saw that. And like, you don't want to be the person who joins the team and is like, yeah, I'm just going to clock out when I can.
But it also even that like, it's kind of, what if they want to play video games and they've been doing this one skill for 10 years and they're very fast at what they do. And you have all these different things that you need them to do and they can do them in like 1 or 2 days. And then there's not really anything else they can do until everybody else in the team's done. So it's almost like an incentive for them to be good at their job, get it done really quickly. It's like the idea that you want to hire lazy people because they're going to find the way to do something as quickly as possible.
And like, I'm not saying like you have to devote your entire life and every waking moment like I do to
it's a balance.
It's do what you need to do. And I think if we, like, I find it really interesting and really cool when an engineer who typically, like if you're part of a large corporation, you build a feature, you make some dashboard a little bit quicker so finance can use this tool. And like you hear from like Janice in finance that she's really happy you built that tool. And like, that's awesome. But like when you spend 3 weeks building a feature that we know is going to provide a ton of value to newsletters, it's like our hunch is like, this is going to be really valuable and well received. You've been heads down building this for 3 weeks meticulously. We launch it. We see hundreds of signups and like upgrades on the day that we launch that feature because everyone's super interested. So like the hunch was correct. Then people start using the tool that you just built. And like along the way as the engineer, you made so many small assumptions of like, what if I move this over here? What I think this would be really cool. And now you're seeing all of those decisions pay off in real time. And you see the product adoption from like the dashboards and event tracking. And then you also get to see people on Twitter being like, I just launched this amazing feature. Like, it's so fucking cool. And like now I launched it today. Now my website looks better. Now I'm converting 10% higher. So now I'm making more money. Like as the engineer who just spent 3 weeks of your life building that, like how rewarding is that?
It's a great incentive and you have skin in the game.
And so finding ways to have every employee, like the engineering example is easier to do, but even customer success, someone like has a bad experience, you're able to turn that around, provide such excellent support, give them an extra like 30 days for free, and they become a lifelong advocate. And then now that person who came in super angry in customer support is like tweeting like, yo, I love Beehiiv, the best experience I've ever had. Shout out to the person on their support team. Like there's so many touch points that you can create with our users where you feel very bought into what we're doing and the journey. And like that's my main job is really just getting people who are passionate and want to be a part of that journey and who can excel in that environment where I'm not going to give you like super strict outline milestones or tell you what to do every day. you know what the end goal is. Like, we need to grow faster. We need to make this better. We need to do X, Y, Z. You kind of fill in the gaps, and it's up to you to kind of execute. And there's like a lot of autonomy. I think a lot of it stems from like my experiences too. Like, I over-index on hiring people that are scrappy and like don't have, like, they didn't go to an Ivy League school. I mean, they can, but didn't go to an Ivy League school. Maybe they're self-taught. Like, someone who self-taught themselves a skill and like stayed up very late on YouTube for months teaching themselves, whether it's digital marketing or coding. That's someone that I'd rather bet on.
It's a personality trait.
Than someone, like, you can't teach grit and drive. And I'd rather bet on someone who has less of the accolades and like polished resume, but has so much more drive and intangibles, like that, because that was me.
That's interesting, because think about the people, like the intrinsic motivation to go to do the work to get into Harvard. Like, you are doing the work to get an external validation to get that title because that's a status symbol. And same thing would translate to, okay, you go to Harvard, then you get a job at Facebook as a senior engineer or whatever it is. And so it's like a different type of motivation. You're doing it for the title or possibly for the
like status, maybe.
Yeah. So,
like, yeah, I feel like for like brand names, like also I'm nothing against Harvard or Stanford. Like, I'll hire from those schools too. Like, I don't care.
But it's a different psychology, because then the person that's learning on
you're going for the stamp of approval versus when
solving
you're
a problem, building something
YouTube.
cool.
Like, YouTube doesn't even give you a badge for studying those things. It's like a very utilitarian, like, I want to get better at this, and no one's going to recognize that I am better than that. But my performance and my understanding of it, when I apply to a job or build my own side hustle or business, like, it will be on full display because I learned that skill. And like, it's not on my resume. There's no like flashy badge. Like, I don't get any sort of accolade. I just want to get better at something. And like, also like the school track from high school to college is one thing. And like, you're just kind of on that track. To spend nights and weekends going out of your way because you're genuinely interested or motivated, I think shows like a different level of drive. So I'm not taking away from a college education, but I've realized in retrospect, playing like armchair therapist, like some of the things that I do or value is really from like my experience. Like, I will bet on the person who just graduated but is so hungry and it's very apparent over someone who has been in this role for 10 years at like XYZ reputable company.
and thinks they know what they're doing.
Because like, they don't have, maybe they do have that drive, and like, I'm over generalizing now, but I love the grittiest like people who want to show that they're willing to put in the work, and they have a chip on their shoulder and a lot to prove, because that is still me to this day.
100%.
But definitely me like 6 years ago. And then also like going back to what I said about my days at Morning Brew, like Austin and Alex didn't tell me every day what to do. I knew what the end goal was, and they were like, figure it out and hopefully you deliver.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I thrive so much in that environment. And so I've kind of emulated that unintentionally of like, our head of growth, I've never told him what to do. He just knows we need to grow faster and quicker. And so he knows what that means, and it's up to him. But I'm not like saying, here's like the 20 things we need to get done this week. And that type of management style, one, I think is easier in a sense where I'm not as hands-on and micromanaging, but it's also more rewarding to the people that are reporting to you.
So you incentivize them and you find people that default to action. If they don't have something to do, they default do something.
I think that's one of our values that we did way back when. It's like some bias towards action.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That's good. I saw that on some video somewhere.
Yeah.
And same with Elon Musk. He like doesn't look at, this is probably some cliche video of him, but it's like, he doesn't look at your school you went to. He asks, what exceptional results have you had? And that's kind of how he judges who to bring on his teams. Never like some title or accolade. That's really insightful. Okay, but back to what we were actually talking about.
Yeah, tools. That was
great
a
tangent.
Full 10-minute tangent off
great
tools.
tangent.
Slack. So I was going to say Google Meet like for video hangouts.
But don't use it a lot. So you Google Meets, don't use it a lot. You have Slack, limit it.
Try to limit it. Google, very meeting light. Partially because we were primarily, I think our first 5 out of 7 hires were engineers. So it's like engineers like just heads down, build stuff, and get, so like we
talking every day is not going to solve anything.
So other tech stack, we use Linear for project management. Like, it's engineering based, so it's like set up to GitHub, beautiful UI. I'm a huge Linear stan, so I'll promote that all day. So that's like engineering based tickets, like typical Kanban or Kanban, whatever the hell you say, like the board of moving things from like backlog to do, progress, testing, QA, production. So we use Linear for that. For non-engineering related initiatives, use Asana for project management.
Okay.
So for growth initiatives, for content, for SEO, anything else that's not engineering, we use Asana for project management. What else do we use? We use Zendesk for support. our actual tech stack is Ruby on Rails. So like that is what I learned.
What?
Ruby on Rails.
Ruby on Rails?
Is like
Is that like a coding language? Or?
Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, it was the like very like it's what Twitter used to be built on. I doubt it is, but like way back when it was built on Twitter, Airbnb, Shopify, are like the big tech companies that were built on Ruby on Rails. Now I think they're either on that or use microservices, but that's what I was taught or like taught myself.
Is that a coding language or
it's like a coding language framework. The language is Ruby. So like Python.
I'm not technical.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm a YouTuber.
You told me you wanted to go deep on tech stack.
No, I like it though.
So the coding languages are like Python, JavaScript, Ruby, Java.
So Ruby's
a language.
I've heard of Java. I've heard of Python.
Yeah. Ruby on Rails is the framework that creates everything. Okay. So we use Ruby on Rails website, which at the time, like I said, Airbnb, Shopify, Twitter, it was like the hot framework. I think that those times have passed because as we've gone to hire more, people are like, oh, we don't really use Ruby much anymore. So if you use Ruby on Rails, apply to our jobs. So that's like our like primary tech stack. GitHub for code repositories. I don't think what else we use.
For Zendesk for customer support, is that just like email management so everyone can see the emails? Is it like Instagram DMs, Twitter DMs?
It's kind of like a platform that'll manage. You can submit a support ticket through the platform. Hey, my website appears to be.
Does that get embedded on Beehiiv's website though?
We have like an API where you can send information, and so we have a support team that has like, okay, you have 100 unanswered tickets of people complaining about XYZ. We help unblock and solve their problems.
So multiple people on the team can see those same requests in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. When customers wanted to give you feedback early on, how did they do that? Was it just like a support email in the bottom of the website?
A lot of it's like Twitter, and just like one of the key advantages I've had, and also one of my downfalls, is like I've made myself way too available. So I answer
You replied to our team's email when we signed up like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Like multiple times immediately. Was it actually you?
Yeah. I respond to every Twitter DM, LinkedIn DM. Like I'm very available. One, again, a lot of it comes with the anxiety and insecurities of an early startup founder being like, what alpha can I get from users? The second someone's like, hey, this isn't working, I want to make sure I see that. I think we've moved past the like code red, something isn't working in most cases. So it's if something's not working well or can be better, rather than them going to Twitter complaining about it or, churning to another platform, I want them to come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about XYZ features would really be a difference maker for my newsletter. I want that insight all day long. So it's honestly just like free customer discovery. Is like the very optimistic way of looking at making your DMs available. The pessimistic way of looking at it is it's another customer support channel. So when I open Twitter, I'm not like, oh, I'm so excited to check Twitter. It's how many DMs do I have that could be support issues, could be someone complaining about something. So like I get stressed out and have made myself too available. But I mean, there's two ways to look at that, right? Like it also has kept a lot of customers around where early days when we didn't have the most robust feature set, and people are like, hey, I'm getting a little impatient with this not being super great. The fact that I can DM them directly and be like, hey, I hear you. We're working on it. We have 2 engineers on it now. It'll be live in 3 weeks. And they have a relationship directly with the CEO. It like has bought a lot of our users a little bit more time and patience to work with us.
Are you ever saying that in your emails? Like, hey, if you guys have any suggestions or problems, like email us or message us here in those emails when people sign up? Like, is that like instant?
Yeah, we used to ask for feedback pretty frequently. It's like a balance because like feedback's great. We also are like pretty strapped on bandwidth.
It'll distract
right? We have like we have 8 engineers. They're hustling. Our roadmap is very, very built out. We keep like 10 to 20% room for like the feedback that we weren't anticipating that we think is actually a great idea and should prioritize. Yeah. I think that's a mistake a lot of companies make of like, here's like the 10 things we're building in Q3 and we are not building anything else but these 10 things. Like focus is great. But what if like something comes up that's actually a complete difference maker, or a competitor launches something that's stealing a lot of your market share, getting a lot more traction than you expected, or a user just has an incredible idea that you're like, actually, when I look at my 10 things that I thought we were going to build, this is actually more important and more valuable than 4 of them. So why don't we bump that up? So I think you have to strike a very delicate balance of hyper focus. Like this is what we're trying to build. We can't just take every point of feedback and iterate and change the roadmap based on whatever someone DMs us, but you need to have some level of being receptive to feedback and willing to shift things around to accommodate users as the landscape changes.
Okay. Really good advice. Any other tools?
kind of the main ones.
A little random one. You guys built what a lot of people would use tools. You guys built stuff that people would use tools for.
Yeah, I'm sure we use something, I don't know what the platform is for social media to get all the posts out.
I know what you're talking about. I always forget that one. I know what you're talking about.
They're a dime a dozen. They stop working, and then we use another one, and then no, I'm sure I'm forgetting some tool that's like super valuable to us, but like clearly not valuable enough for me to remember right now. So okay, we got the main ones.
All right. Well, I think we're probably past 2 hours, and we could talk all day. But last question I'll probably ask you or leave you with is what problem or what idea that you didn't think would be that impactful or that good of a feature for your tool that you implemented was actually way more successful than you thought it would be?
I'd say it's something we're investing. I don't know when this launches, so this will be live by the time that this launches, but tomorrow we're launching the ability to customize your homepage. And we play like a very weird space we're primarily a newsletter platform, but we provide a website for you out of the box. If you want to host your own fully custom website on WordPress or Webflow, like you can integrate with our tech, use us for email newsletters, use your own website. But out of the box, we do have website features. And so there's always a delicate balance of like, we'll never be as expansive as a WordPress who's been doing it for like 15, 20 years, or like a Webflow, which is a multi-billion-dollar company solely on building websites. But can we get closer where we can solve most of your use cases? So we're kind of balancing that.
How far do you want to take that? Yeah.
So how far do we go? Like, this is the end of the line, and anything beyond this, like, here's our APIs, here's how you'd integrate, you go use one of those platforms, versus like the endless, like, oh, you could customize this, or here's like 5 new layouts that you can use. But the website is actually like it's the homepage and like the first touch point of people's online presence and their content. And so people are very opinionated on how their website looks, how it converts, what customizations you can have around the website. And so it's always kind of been like, it's cool that we offer a website, but like, you know, the newsletter, the growth, the monetization is like where I'd say like 80% of our focus is. A month and a half ago, we launched customizing your landing page. So you can have background images, you can add testimonials, you can add different layouts, you can add different styles and images.
The little details.
It was the #1 feature we've ever launched in terms of like
how many people used it,
and in terms of people upgrading. So we put it on like a paid plan, and so we had so many people that were hanging out on the free plan. But the fact that you could customize your landing page to have an awesome background color and image and testimonials
makes sense.
Move the needle more than any of our other features, and it caused the most upgrades that we've ever had in a single week. And so tomorrow we're doing an extension of that where you can now. So there's like the landing page where you collect emails, but then there's like the home page, which is like NewYorkTimes.com essentially, where like the premium stories are all the most recent posts, the authors, other widgets. And tomorrow we're launching the ability to customize the hell out of that page.
Cool.
More layouts, more themes, more widgets, more features and customization options. My guess is it's going to do really well, but that's like an insight that I knew that people cared about their website, but I didn't know that it would get people who have been very stubbornly on the free plan forever to be like, that's what's going to get me to upgrade. Is I want people
custom design
to land on my website and be like, wow, that looks amazing. Maybe I only have 500 subscribers. Like, it's a small operation, but I at least want those 500 subscribers to feel something special when they land on my website. So that's like an insight that, I mean, it makes perfect sense, but I just don't think we ever over-index.
I wouldn't think that that's the moves the needle.
And I don't know how much it like moves the needle, but as far as like getting people to upgrade, it did more than most other feature launches that we have.
That's a great answer. That's really insightful for me.
Top of mind for me because we're launching tomorrow, but after this, I have to write up the whole email about it. So
have fun. You're good at those. I love your emails. Okay. I guess one last thing. Why should someone start a newsletter? Why should they use Beehiiv to do it?
So if you've been listening up until this point, the why you should start a newsletter, I think you made like the strongest bull case, but you can get started. It's free to get started unless you want to use our premium newsletter, our website builder, and you can pay, but it's very cost effective. You own your audience. You have a direct line to your most loyal fans. It can be top of funnel for premium content, communities, affiliates, advertisements. There's a lot of monetization opportunities. And it's portable, so you can take it to whatever platform you want, whenever you want to, unlike the other big social platforms. So as far as expanding influence, and making money, I think newsletters are an incredible channel. So that's the answer to why newsletters, and then why Beehiiv. If you've made it through 2.5 hours of me talking to this point, I would hope what you would take from that is we know what we're doing. We are obsessed with our customers. We know what it takes to make a very successful newsletter. And we're also aware, and we know what we don't know in terms of like we're willing to listen to other people who are having success or have a hunch of what would make their newsletter more successful. And we're willing to build the tools. And I think some of our other competitors have taken philosophy over being pragmatic, and they have a very hard stance on what they think is the right way to do things. And like I said to you earlier, I don't give a shit if you use our ad network or use your own ad network. If you are making money and having success, I'm happy that you're using us and having success. And if having your own ad opportunities is better for you, we will build tools for you to facilitate managing your ad inventory better, even if it's not our ads, because your success is our success. And I think if we really nail that and continue to lean into what users want, like that is the recipe to win in business in general. And that's like our philosophy.
Tyler Denk, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Guys, check out Beehiiv,
Beehiiv.com. We're not good at spelling, but we're good at sending emails.
And that's Tyler Denk on Twitter, DNK. Awesome. Have a wonderful day, guys. Watch this one over. You'll learn a lot.